a playlist original.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster. My name is Gaz Bowling. This is the first episode of 2023, a new year, some new things. And since there is, I wanted to start the new year with like something completely new as well. I know that you guys have kind of been with us when we had like Owen on as one of our hosts, and then we had Brittany, and then we had Jack, and then a lot of things like kind of like life kind of happens and like everyone can't like do it like week after week, so like for a while I was like, you know what, I will just rotate guests in and out, and I'll just kind of have the show be based around me. But I like the team effort a bit, and I wanted to have someone on more consistently with me week after week, and I am very excited to announce that that person is Jackson. You already actually heard him on episode 66. It was a big, like, hot topics day. Um, he got through that with flying colors. And yeah, I asked him soon, like, pretty much soon after that, if he would be interested. And he was. So thank you. Officially, Jackson is a permanent co host of Back to the Blockbuster. Welcome, buddy.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Yes, I'm stoked to be here, man. Like, the pleasure's all mine. Trust me in that. It's great. You do a great thing with your podcast, and I'm just honored to be a part of it. So thanks again for having me, and thanks to the listeners too.
Yeah, in case people are wondering, like, how do we, why Jackson was picked, there's a combination of a lot of things, right? We have like a lot of really good guests that pop in and out, um, but everything kind of had to work, and I guess the big thing is like the scheduling has to work, right? You have to find like a day that's like, can this person actually do it, like, week after week, and I'm actually off from like all my jobs on Monday, so it's like a good recording day for me. And the earlier to get it done, the better, because we're not in the same time zone. But
No,
not at all. But you know what? It works out for me because
opposite
like we're
color.
yeah we're recording this like a little after 2 p.m. Pacific time, so it's great for me because I get to get it done early, because I also have to record our spinoff. Like uh, there's like be a little gap in between, but like it's a good day to do it, and thankfully this day works out for him. So like timing had to work. I think chemistry also had to work too, and I think he did a really good job of just like keeping up with like all the stuff that we were talking about during that episode, because there was a lot that we packed into that one, and he knew what he was talking about. And like I guess like what I miss most is that when Owen was the co-host, like he's on the spinoff now, but when he was like on the show, like what he kind of brought to it was that he didn't work in the industry. He was just like a casual like lover of movies, and like that's the kind of voice I think that the show needed. And I can like throw out all the technical like industry mumbo jumbo all day, but I think people really like someone that's just like them, basically, like, they're just fans of like movies and pop culture and entertainment. And I think you actually kind of feel that void that we kind of like lost when he had to exit the main show. So I think this is a good thing to have, like kind of have like, I mean, I can approach this stuff as a fan too, but like it's different when like you have no ties to the industry really at all, and like
Exactly.
right. And like I think people respond to people like you a bit more, because like it kind of feels like they're listening to like themselves, or how they would kind of uh tackle some of these like news items or movies, TV, like just regular folks that love to watch
Yeah.
all this stuff. And like you fit that mold pretty well. So that was like the main one of the main reasons why I thought you'd be a good fit, because like we really needed that on the show, and I'm happy to kind of have that back again week after week. Now it's going to be exciting, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I'm excited. I'm glad to be a part of it. And yeah, I like you just said, you summed it up nice. I just view myself as more like an extension of the audience, as someone who is a fan of the podcast, who just happens to really keep up with the stuff and generally know what I'm talking about, or at least I like to think I do. And it's that dynamic between someone that's not in the industry and then someone like yourself who works in this industry and is obviously very, very up to date with all this stuff works really great.
Right, it does. And you know what? The good thing about you too is that because sometimes I have to be like careful about what I say. uh, I have to like make sure I
Not with
don't
me
like
then.
make sure I don't like embarrass like the outlets I work for, because they do listen
Oh,
to it.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I have to like. I mean, I could say pretty much whatever I want, but I just have to be careful of like embargo stuff, certain things like, am I allowed to say this stuff yet, or like when can I bring it up?
Okay.
Like you don't really have to worry about that at all. Like if there was something that you heard, you could talk about it. I mean, I might not be able to confirm or deny it. I might just give you like a wink, wink, and a
Right.
nudge, but you can
Uh-huh.
talk about whatever you want. So like that's also perfect. You don't have to like really censor yourself, and that's another good thing to have. Like you can just be like, yeah,
Totally.
this is how I feel. Deal with it. So like that's refreshing. And so
Perfect.
whenever I can't say something, you can definitely jump in and say something, which will be
Okay,
nice.
perfect.
Yeah.
I'm sure
So
most of what I know you already know, so
you know what though, I find that like I still learn new things every day though. Like I mean, there's certain people that like, oh, you probably already know this, and like I'll try to pretend like, oh yeah, I already knew it, and I'm like, no, I didn't know that at all. So like you still learn stuff every day, and there's still like movies I haven't seen that like people like are surprised I haven't seen them, and like that just
oh
happened
dude,
like
I get that all the time.
yeah, that just happened last Monday with like Owen. He was like surprised. He showed me this movie Shot Caller, and I never heard of it. I've never heard of it at all. Like,
I
and he
recognize
was
the
like,
title,
"What?"
but I've never seen it either.
And it was really good. It's funny. Well, it's funny though because like when you like introduce a movie to your friend and you really like it, like you kind of like hope that your friend will like it. I done that with
Of
him with
course.
like 25th Hour and like Closer. Those are like some of my like two favorite movies, and like I showed it to him, and like the whole time like they're watching it, they're like, I hope they like it. I hope they like it. So he actually had that moment with me though on Monday. Like I've never like he was like looking at me like I wonder if
Okay.
I hope he likes it, and then like yeah, because it's like one of his favorite movies, and it was really good. I was surprised. I had like low expectations because based on like what the poster and stuff looked like, I was like, all right, whatever. Um, but it was surprisingly good. Yeah.
You were describing an interaction that, oddly enough, I literally just had with my best friend. He was down visiting from Newfoundland, just even more East Coast than where I'm at, New Brunswick. And have you seen the movie Rounders with Matt Damon
Oh,
and
I love that movie. Yeah,
so
love that
exact.
movie.
I had just seen it for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and my buddy has always talked it up like through our childhood, and it was one of those things where he's like, "Man, I can't believe you haven't seen this. You love movies. You've seen everything. How have you not seen this?" I'm like, "Man, I've seen 1,000 movies that you probably never heard of. Like, give me a break here." Anyway, so we sat down one night while he was in town, and we watched Rounders. And like about 15 minutes in, he looked over at me. He was like, "I swear it's gonna get better, man. It's just slow. It's better." And I was like, "Dude, I was like, man, I'm loving this right now. Like, this is an awesome experience." And I ended up loving Rounders. It was a great time.
Yeah,
I
it's a
liked it way
great
more than
movie.
I thought I would.
Yeah,
And Ed
that
Norton as
came
too. I was starting to think of the
yeah,
same.
that came out during like a pretty sweet spot for like Edward Norton and Matt Damon. Like it was like really
Both of
like
them.
like I was like after Good Will Hunting for Matt Damon, and then like Edward Norton was just in everything in like the mid late
Mm.
'90s, early 2000s. Like he was just like a you know out of the
Right
gate,
after Primal Fear. Yeah.
yeah, right
I
out
think
the
it was a
gate
year
with like
after.
yeah,
Yeah.
crazy good performance like in that like debut performance in that, and then he just like took off and like you know it's funny too because like I watched Glass Onion like when it was out for a week in theaters, and it was like cool to see Edward Norton like because like I think he kind of has a rep for like he used to have a rep back in the day for being hard to work with. I don't think he. I think he was
Yeah.
just more like. I think he's much more passionate than like maybe like hard to work with. I think like he has like certain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he just has certain like standards maybe for like the people he works with, and I that can maybe come off as like difficult. But I think in like recent years he's kind of like calmed down a bit and like seems to like be
Softened
having
up a
fun.
bit.
Yeah, and like
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree with you.
I think it kind of started with like Birdman, like where it's like, all right, he can kind of like make fun of himself and like poke fun of himself. And then I was
Very
watching
much a
like
meta
Glass,
role.
yeah, I'm watching Glass Onion, and he's like a part of this like massive ensemble, and it looks like he was just having like the time of his life. It looked like he was just having fun. I was like, it's nice to actually see him like look like he's having fun and not maybe like take himself too
Right.
seriously. Yeah, so like yeah, I love that you brought up that movie though. That's another one that I try to show like Rounders. I try to show that to a lot of my friends who haven't seen it, especially when they're
Yeah,
like
I'd
fans of
recommend it to
like
anybody.
yeah, they're like I have friends who are like fans of both those guys and like never seen it, and I'm like what
Yeah, I
like
can't believe it took me
I'm,
that long. but I'm glad you've gotten it in. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and like I was thinking, like when I was IMDbing it, like before we watched it, I noticed it came out in '98, and I was like, man, that's quite the year for Matt. He did, like you said, Good Will Hunting, that, and Saving Private Ryan all that year, where he
all
more or
that
less
year.
took off. That's a busy
Yeah,
man that year for sure. So good for
yeah,
him
he
and good
blew
for
up.
everyone who made that movie because it was great.
Yeah, you know what? I guess the only like I guess the only dink against it, it was made by Miramax, and like and Miramax has that just the whole rep, with that guy who shall not be named, I guess. Uh,
Right.
a lot, but they cranked out some really good movies, especially during that time period. I mean, like for better or worse, like he was known for being a bit of a bully in the industry, right? But he knew how to like
Mm,
sell his movies like really well, especially if he wanted them to get like awards attention, right? So like Miramax was like the prestige like studio to be a part of. And
yeah.
and Matt Damon, yeah, he made Good Will Hunting with them. He did Rounders. The Talented Mr. Ripley was also with Miramax.
Oh, I didn't
Like
realize
so,
that.
like
That's right.
he had a good run with them. I'm sure it wasn't always pleasant,
Certainly.
knowing that we what we know now.
No.
But
Yeah.
but a really great time for both those guys, and like solid movie. I'm glad you got to see it. And
Yeah,
I
me
just think
too.
it's funny that your buddy like I've done the same thing where I'm just like you can't tell if they're enjoying it, and you're like like just give it like 20 minutes. I'm like it gets better, it gets better, and they're like, dude, I like it, it's fine. Like, right, I just can't tell.
I don't need it to be fast paced and action heavy to be enjoying it. You know what I mean? I feel like that it seems to be something that a lot of more casual moviegoers seem to really need for their movie for their enjoyment of it. But I
Yeah,
mean, once you watch some of the greats, like some slow burns, some Andre Tarkovsky, who's making 3 hour slow burn, human
yeah,
dramas, you don't
yeah.
really need action heavy stuff. But
No,
no, it
not at
was
all.
great though.
And I appreciate a good slow burn anyway. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
I like the.
exactly.
I mean, it makes the payoff better when like they kind of like build up to like you know the big event. It makes the payoff a lot better,
Exactly.
and like you kind of earn it. And I actually like that. Now it is possible to make a slow burn that's not entertaining. I mean, like it also has to be interesting, um, and that can be kind of like I think a bit hard. Um, but yeah, I appreciate any movie that like takes its time and like tell a story and make you kind of earn any of that stuff. So yeah, I enjoy it. And just so you know too, like if there is any like
Okay.
you're all good. They'll just
Okay.
edit all that stuff out, so you'll be good.
Okay. Perfect. I was wondering what was happening.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Good.
yeah. It's like hey, yeah. Living in the beach, man. The beach city internet is
Yeah.
not always great. But yeah, I guess like the last time when you were on the first time, that was like right before the holiday, I think. So like there
Yep.
was like so there's been a lot, like I said. I mean, I'm sure that you kind of like just for you in general, like you probably were just busy with like family stuff, friend stuff.
Yep.
Uh what was it like for you during the break? Did you like catch any new movies, watch any new stuff? Uh what did you do
Totally,
with all
yeah.
the
I got lots of
downtime?
watches in since I was last on. As far as theater releases, I think I've only seen the one thing in theater since I was on last, which there's definitely plenty out that I still plan on seeing. I still plan on seeing Babylon. I still plan on seeing Avatar 2. I had plans to go see it a couple times. It just kind of fell through, but it's on my radar. Not like it's in jeopardy of stuff. It's going to be in theaters for a long
I
time.
think it's fine. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah. And I honestly, come to think of it, I don't recall ever seeing a poster at my local theater for Fablemans, but I'd like to see if it's still playing here. I'm not sure. But I did get earlier this week, or no, last week, The Whale in, and that was phenomenal. I love that. A great movie to start the year off with theatrically for me. Anyway, I know it's a 2022 release, but it didn't come here till January 2023. That was phenomenal. Have you had the chance to see? I don't know if we discussed it or not.
I actually did just see it last week, and I really enjoyed it.
Okay, there you go. There you
I'm
go.
really because I was worried because I heard like mixed things from like people like that kind of trust when it comes to that stuff. Um,
Yep.
and I guess I could see like what some of their issues were with it, but I just like at the end of the day, I was just blown away by like the acting in it, particularly like I mean, I think everyone was really good in it, but like it was just great to like I think we mentioned this before. Like I love like a comeback story and like watching Brendan Fraser kind of have like this moment right now is like really exciting to see. Like
Very, very, and he's very humble about it, and you can tell
yeah,
really enjoying his return, and I wish him all the best. I think he's got a nomination secured at least for the Oscar. I hope so anyway, because his performance blew me away. His physical acting, his physical performance, let alone some of the other stuff, was quite impressive. He looked like the costume designer. I don't know if that would be the correct term for who applied all the makeup effects and stuff on him. The suit was great looking. As far as Aronofsky's filmography, like it was very much like a microcosm of some of his more popular works, and I really loved him as a filmmaker. So he was firing on all cylinders there, and I was surprised to see. I should have known this going in, but it was a one location shoot, and I thought it worked great. I didn't feel bored. I thought it was paced well. Like there wasn't anything about it that I didn't like, to be honest. I was very happy with coming out of that one.
Yeah, I was, so I wasn't a huge fan of Mother, so this was a nice it was nice to get him back in my good graces a bit, because I just remember, I remember when I saw Mother, and like I could even defend it to my friends. I just remember my friend was sitting next to me, and it was getting like bonkers. I mean, it was a bonkers movie, and it just got more bonkers.
Yeah.
And my buddy like leaned over. He's like, "The fuck you make us watch?" I was like, "I know. I'm sorry." I know.
I can't say I'm surprised with his reaction there. Although I found myself thinking, like, after leaving The Whale, that I'm due for a rewatch of Mother, because, like, I remember we discussed this last time I was on. I really liked it, but I haven't seen it since it came out in theaters in 2017, I think. And I saw it twice in theaters during them, but I haven't seen it since, and I want to get a rewatch of that in some time.
Yeah, I remember when the cinema score came out for that movie and it got an F, and I was like, well, no one really likes it. Yeah.
Oh wow.
I was like, yeah. I was like, and like at the time, like I was on Real Talk Inc. has like the Real Chronicles podcast, and I was on their podcast, and that movie was like a big topic of conversation, because like the guy David really liked that movie a lot, and his now wife hated it, and I was like, it was a fun topic of discussion to like kind of like, because I didn't like outright hate it the way she did. Like there were things I like, I kind of was like, all right, that's cool, I guess. But she had like a visceral reaction to like that movie. Like she despised it. So like it was fun going back and forth about like, hey, maybe years from now it might be considered like a misunderstood masterpiece. I don't know.
Absolutely. There's a lot of value in rewatching a movie, given some years in between it, and watching it again. I find my perspective changes on movies, particularly divisive ones, that all the time. So who knows what a next watch will bring? You change in between watches often. So
it's true. And like I think the two examples I have for this are both like Baz Luhrmann movies. But I didn't love Romeo and Juliet when I first saw it, and I also didn't love Moulin Rouge when I first saw it. And I think I was just young and like just was like, I don't get this. It was like years later that I like actually do like Romeo and Juliet now, like his take on it, and I actually love Moulin Rouge now. I think at the time when I saw it, I was like, yeah, this is not for me. I don't get it. But yeah, it can change. Your mind can totally change on the movie, like when you watch it like years later with like more perspective and like an adult mind. Like that kind of helps too.
Yeah, absolutely. And using that as a segue, just another movie I wanted to touch on briefly that I'd gotten in since I saw you last, that we'll probably disagree on. I know you were a fan of this one, but I picked up a Blu-ray copy of the new Scream the other day, or not, I guess a couple weeks ago. Threw that in the other night, like going in. I had a high, not too high, but enough to enjoy it. And I was kind of let down, not gonna lie. It just didn't hit those notes that I thought it was gonna hit. But I'm thinking with a rewatch, maybe a year or two, or maybe after the next one comes out, my mind might change. But I just didn't take away.
All right.
I thought I would.
All right. We already got our first disagreement. At least we're getting it early.
Yeah.
You know what? I think I saw it. You know what's funny? I have it on Blu-ray now, and I actually haven't watched it on Blu-ray. They sent me a copy like for work. I saw it in theaters twice, and I think like I was like on the high of like having like a new Scream be out there, and I kind of wonder if I popped it in like today, like would I have that same like love for it? Because I actually saw it at a press screening like 4 days before it came out. But those are like kind of not fun to see like horror movies at, because everyone's like so serious. Right? Yeah, and, like they're just like they're taking notes, and like it's hard to like okay, right? So
probably.
But then I saw it opening night with my brother with like a actual crowd, and it was much better like with a crowd like that. They were like, we're just loving every moment of it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that like, uh, I don't know. I might feel like you if I watched it, you know, today. I might feel once that high of like, not having, like once that high wears off, I maybe I wouldn't like enjoy it as much.
Yeah, maybe.
But
I think
but
you had the
yeah,
advantage of watching it in the theater for sure. I watched it by myself, so I didn't really have anybody else feeding into me. I think I maybe would have enjoyed it with some other Scream fans around, perhaps. But yeah,
yeah.
and that was just my experience watching that.
And you know what's cool though? It kicked off. It kicked off last. Well, it's weird that it's like I think almost a year since it
Yeah,
came out in
okay.
theaters. Um, and it like had a $30 million opening weekend when it opened. It kind of was like, it was like, all right, this franchise is back now, I guess. So
Wow, well, good for
and
it.
then they, it's crazy that we're getting the next one like in March. So the turnaround between like the amount of time it took for them to release
Yeah.
that one, have it make a little bit of money, and then like get started on making another one like right away. I mean, it kind of like it's very similar to what they did when like the first one and the second one came out. Like the first one came out in December of '96. It didn't open well. It kind of had a really bad opening weekend, but it
Oh,
had like
interesting.
insane word of mouth. Like it like went up each week, and
Okay,
then they
makes sense.
quickly it was still playing in theaters when they started shooting Scream 2. So like it was like so like quick.
Oh,
Like that they were like,
yeah, no kidding.
we gotta strike while the iron's hot, basically.
Yeah.
Because like, there wasn't the horror genre like wasn't really fully back at that point. So it wasn't like, oh, is this like a fluke or was this like a genuine
Right.
like hit? And I think what actually helped was Scream came out, made a lot of money. I Know You Did Last Summer came out in October of '97, like 2 months before Scream 2, and that did really well. And I think that kind of proved that, like, all right, these type of movies are like, it seems like they're back now. Um, it was really like we were having like the kind of '80s slasher movement, like in the '90s, like for us. So
Renaissance.
so it was like
Yeah,
really cool to watch. Like, and of course, like with every good thing, they like, they beat a dead horse and did too many of all types of those kind of movies. So like
of course
eventually
they do.
you get like an Urban Legend and then Valentine and then The Faculty. And I'm not saying like I have love for like almost all those movies, but
Right.
Hollywood's like that. One thing is successful and then like they're like, all right, we gotta make more of these. Like the same thing, but like taking Urban Legend, like, all right, we need something like Scream. Like, instead of horror movies, we're gonna do urban legends instead. Like they're just like just swapping out little things about the plot. It's essentially the same thing. Um,
Yeah.
that's what happens. That's what happens if you make a little bit of money, and then like every studio is like, "All right, we want our Scream, like we need to have it."
Very much a
Like,
machine.
and that happens a lot in
Absolutely.
horror, right? Like you had like the '90s like slasher movie craze, and then you had like the found footage thing with like Blair Witch Project, and and then of course that leads
Absolutely.
into like Paranormal Activity and like a bunch of those type of movies, and then you had like the torture porn phase was like all the Saws and Hostel,
Yeah.
and like they all
Yeah.
come in waves. They all come in waves, right? Um, yeah, I kind of, even though I love having all those movies, I kind of wish that like studios would like kind of take a moment and be like, all right, I know this was successful, but let's maybe like not rush into like trying to create the same thing over and over and over
That's what
again.
I'm saying.
Like
I agree. Sometimes
let it
like too
breathe.
much of a yeah, too
Yeah.
much of a good thing isn't necessarily a great thing. You know what I mean? And but I mean that's what happens when you know that's capitalism. So obviously they're going to be pumping out.
Exactly right.
And with horror, they're just it's too easy to make them. Like horror movies are generally like you can make them pretty good horror movies for cheap. I don't blame
Yeah.
them for wanting to pump out more, making money. That's what it's about. But yeah, it's just too easy. Too much of a good thing isn't always a great thing. But
Yeah,
it
I
is
agree.
what
I
it
mean,
is.
I honestly think some studios when they see opening weekend numbers for like other studios for their movies, they've
Yeah.
already like tried to call someone like, all right, write that thing that's similar to that thing so we can have our own thing that'll make as much money.
I'm sure it's exactly how it goes.
Like they probably didn't even like see the movie. They just probably were like, look how much money it made. And like, yeah,
You're seeing
like
dollar bills in their eyes.
yeah, get some screenwriter that won't care that we're gonna like take his script and like probably like edit it
Butcher
and
it.
fuck it up, yeah.
Yeah.
And like, yeah,
And I
I'm
can't
like
say I
it's
blame them.
like
I
I
get
mean
it.
yeah, I get it. I mean I totally get it, and it's all about making money. And I guess that's a good kind of segue into talking about we talked a little bit about the box office for over the holidays, and I think we were just talking
Mhm.
about like we were talking a lot about Avatar. I hadn't seen it. I still haven't seen it. I'm like digging my
Okay.
feet in the sand about not seeing it.
I know what you mean.
I just can't like, and whenever I think about like, do I have 3 hours and 12 minutes to dedicate to seeing it? I always think of like 10 other things I'd rather do. So it's
I
like,
know.
it's so bad. And I know I should. And like, what's funny is like, I'll probably end up watching it at home. And like, and that's not the best way to like watch it. I mean, like, it's not gonna like, it should be seen on the big screen, but like, I would probably fall asleep. I mean, I heard that it's not boring. I mean, from people
Right.
who have seen it, but I didn't love the first one. So it's kind of hard for me to like, want to jump in to see the sequel. But apparently everyone and their mother is seeing the sequel. Um, you know, it
Really.
I think what we said about, you know, Top Gun Maverick is still the highest grossing domestic release of 2022. So go Tom Cruise. You still get to have that
Oh,
title.
okay. I'm glad you
But
mentioned that.
yeah, because on the global scale, Avatar like leapfrogged over it during during the holiday break. I think it's already made like 1.7 billion dollars worldwide.
Yeah,
Um,
so that's what I was going to ask you about. So it's beaten Top Gun Maverick domestically, right? But not in the year of 2022. Is that what I
so yeah,
understand?
so I guess like in 2022 money, like Top Gun will still be the number one movie because it didn't like
Right on.
it hasn't outpaced it on the domestic front. Even like, you know, it still hasn't like it's made like uh a little over like 400, I think $50 million here, or maybe like somewhere in that range. Um, I don't know if
Okay.
it has enough. I don't know if it has enough gas in its tank to like. I mean, Top Gun made $714 million here, and I don't know if. I mean, it. I mean, it. I don't know. I mean, it still had a pretty good weekend this weekend, and it wasn't a holiday like or anything like that. It was. It still did really well over the weekend.
Right. It's been officially dethroned, though, right? As of this weekend, did Megan topple it as number
Uh,
one?
no, it came in second, but Megan had like a really good
Okay.
opening weekend. Like Megan made
Oh, yeah.
$30 million this weekend.
Right.
I saw it. I saw it over the weekend.
Oh,
Um,
great.
it's
Thoughts?
so I liked it. I think what at least my crowd seemed to be upset that it wasn't like as scary as it could have been. But I always got the impression that it was supposed to be kind of campy and like kind of more funny than like
Right.
a full blown like horror movie. And you know, critics loved it too. I think it has like a 94% or 95% Rotten Tomatoes. Like, I
Yeah, it
mean,
does.
it leans into itself. It knows what it is, and I think it's very self aware. So I think that is
Good.
what people are loving about it. You know,
Yeah.
in the pantheon of like killer doll movies, you know, Chucky's still king, but you know,
Yes, he
uh,
is.
but I think the interesting thing about like what they did with this character, I mean, like they're being very like vague about how they created Megan. I think it's a combination of like, you know, animatronics and then actually using like a real girl in a suit in certain points and
Okay.
like and stuff like
Interesting.
that. But they're being very like kind of like tight-lipped about like, oh, like we don't want to like give away all the magic, and that's fair. They don't want to like
I I can
ruin
appreciate
the,
that, honestly.
yeah, they don't want to ruin the mystique of it, right? Um,
Right.
but everything they did to create her though is fucking cool. I mean, the character, like that is, I think that is going to be like a horror movie character that becomes kind of like iconic in its own right, and it kind of it's already taken over like all these like viral like TikTok videos. There's a bunch of people
Yep.
already like dressing up like her and doing dances, and like
A
she
hallway
sings,
dance.
yeah, she sings one song in the movie in particular that people are using. She sings Titanium, like like that David Guetta
Sia?
Sia song, yeah, and
Yeah, okay.
she
Huh.
sings it, and like it's a really funny moment in the movie. But now it's kind of like people are now using it on their like Instagram videos and TikTok videos to kind of like show like, hey, if you know, you know, this is from Megan, basically.
Okay.
Um, so like
Well, good
I
for
think
it.
yeah, you know, the movie only cost like $12 million to make, and like it's another hit for Blumhouse. Blumhouse is like they have perfected like making micro budgeted horror movies that
Yeah, they know the formula.
by opening day they're like turn a profit. So like it's like a very it's a I mean more power to them, man. They're cranking out really usually cranking out really good horror movies.
Usually pretty good ones. They got a couple, questionable, maybe even some shitters in their
Yeah, there's
filmography,
some
but
stinkers in
generally
there.
Blumhouse is a powerhouse horror studio.
Yeah,
And hats
and
off to
like
them.
and this is like other than Get Out, this is like their best reviewed horror movie release that they've had. Like, I mean, Get Out has like
Wow.
one person gave Get Out a negative review, which is why it doesn't have 100% Rotten Tomatoes. Um,
Okay.
Megan came out the gate with a 98%, and they were like neck and neck. And then eventually, of course, you know,
Wow.
there were some naysayers that gave it like a couple of bad reviews, but still like 94, 95% for a horror movie that no
That
one
is
was expecting to
impeccable.
like be like this, right? Like usually when you
I
like
was
release
expecting
exactly,
nothing
right?
from
So
that movie. A January
usually
horror release is usually
right. Yeah,
garbage, but
like January and September are usually like the dumping grounds, right? Where it's like, you know,
yeah.
this is our leftovers, basically. Um,
But every once in a while,
and
it'll surprise you.
yeah, I mean, occasionally, like in September, you get an it, and then that makes a lot of money, and like you get lucky. And then like in January, you get something like Megan, and like it does really well, and uh, it's kind of exciting to see though. Like, I mean, horror was already having like a pretty good time in 2022, and then now like to kind of kick off 2023 with another solid horror release that's pretty good, I think. No, we're good. Yeah, we can just yeah they'll cut all that stuff out until we're
Okay.
good. But yeah, no, yeah, it's a good way to kick off the new year with like, you know, even though it opens number two, it made $30 million this weekend. That's crazy, and that's uh you know what, having that movie be successful, and even though I don't want to see it, even having Avatar be successful, it's a good thing to see, especially after, you know, we had that whole like 2020, and then like, you know, we didn't
Mhm.
even know if like movie going was gonna like get back to normal, and then they kind of tested the waters in 2021 with some releases and like some hit, but
Right.
they were still like, you know, it's still a struggle to get like adults back to the theater now, and I think that, you know, this definitely Avatar definitely appeals to an older demographic, but I think everyone's kind of like seeing it and enjoying it. Um, it was the only clear winner of like the holiday box office though, because everything else kind of just
Yeah.
everyone everything else died a quick death.
Yes, it did.
I kind of knew the Whitney Houston movie wouldn't do that well because like there wasn't like a ton of promotion, and like they kind of like they really sold in the marketing. They sold it on like, oh, like from the writer of Bohemian Rhapsody, right? So that movie made a lot of money, and like
Mm,
that's how
I
that's how
didn't know that.
they were trying to sell it on that. And I'm not. It's interesting too because Whitney Houston as like a person and as an entertainer, like, you know, everyone knows about like, you know, make a great voice, superstar singer, had like, you know, but also had a very tragic life as well, right? So like it's very like
Right.
interesting like subject matter for a biopic. I don't know why it didn't really hit from the people I know that saw it said that it felt like a Wikipedia like by the numbers,
Oh,
like kind of
yeah.
like
Eh?
oh, here's her early life, oh, here's her successes, let's throw in like 10 of her songs right here, and then like, you know,
Mm,
kind of like, and then here's the drug use, like, oh, this is where she falls apart. So like there's like it was
I
like, I
see.
guess it didn't bring anything new.
Formulaic.
Yeah. And I think they kind of thought if they released it at this time, like during like the holiday break, that maybe it could. Usually, movies like they do a little bit better during that time because like everyone's off work, no one's in school, everyone's going to
Yeah,
the
less
movies.
stuff to do. Yep.
Yeah, and it just they didn't respond to it, and you know, I you know but two of my friends that saw it love Whitney Houston, so I wasn't sure. Like they were like, "Oh yeah, it was great, I loved it," and I was like, "Are you just saying that because like you love Whitney Houston, or did you like the movie?" And
Right.
everything, but everything they said was like, "Oh, they had like so much of her music," and I was like, "Of course they did. It's like it's a biopic about her. Like everyone loves her music, but like was the movie good?" They're like, "Yeah, like they recreated that one music video really well." I'm like, "All right, you're just talking about like the music
I think
and
that
her
I
as a
think
person."
that problem goes back to the marketing because, like my perspective, like I love musical biopics, one of my favorite genres.
Yeah,
I love Bohemian Rhapsody, but I think I saw the trailer for this one maybe once or twice, and it didn't generate any interest in me to go see a movie about a star who I don't know much about. So I would love to go see it to get some insight on her life and career. And it's one of my favorite genres, and I just wasn't appealed to go see it. And I guess a lot of other people the same way.
yeah, you
Some
know,
folks would do that.
and I also think too, like her family was heavily involved in like the making of it. Like
Okay.
as far as like, you know, they had to give like script approval and stuff like that. And like I heard they don't shy away from like, you know, her ultimate downfall was like drug use, and like that. I mean, that's no secret. But
Right.
I did hear from one person that they kind of sugarcoat it a little bit, and like I think that's hard when like the family is involved because like I don't think you give like unless they're down with just giving like a very honest portrayal of like who that person is. It kind of I think it's kind of hard when like you have the family being like, oh well, don't talk about that. Maybe not. Don't show too much of this. Like
Right.
her relationship with Bobby Brown was like very like tumultuous, and I heard that it's kind of it's in there, but it's not as definitely like you if you watch like any TMZ like news cycle, you knew how bad the relationship was, and the movie doesn't really like dive into that too much.
Okay.
Um, and I think like for me though, like I if I'm going to see a biopic, like I want like
Nitty
honesty from
gritty.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I think the only music biopic that like portrays their like the performer like an angel that it might be true is Selena. I was like, I remember when I saw Selena, I was like, this girl didn't do anything awful, I guess, in her life, right? But like, but the movie made
Right.
me
Yeah.
buy it.
Right.
The movie made me buy it though. It made me buy that she was like
Okay.
this kind of like uh, very nice, sincere, like she had no bad bone in her body, and like that was the one biopic where I was like, all right, I can actually maybe buy that. Like she might have been a saint. um, but when it's someone like Whitney Houston, or if like there's all this talk about like doing like a Michael Jackson biopic too, like how do you make one
Yeah. Where's that?
and not talk about like are you gonna talk about like all his stuff because like you know like can you? I mean
Yeah,
like
that could be contentious.
yeah, I mean like and this is coming from someone who loves Michael Jackson, right? I can separate
Same here, man.
the music from like because my friends were like, well, he was kind of weird. Like, yeah, but he made Thriller, so like, like but he did that lean in like the Smooth Criminal video. Like, come on, like,
Guy's an icon no matter what. Like he
right,
is as iconic
yeah,
as he gets.
but yeah,
So yeah.
I think that might have been the problem that happened with his biopic. They probably played things a bit too safe. Um, whenever it comes to like home viewing, I'm sure I'll watch it at home and uh give it a shot. But like, there was no like need for me to like rush out and see it like in the
No, I
theater.
agree.
Even though I'm pretty sure
No
like the
draw.
music probably sounds great in a auditorium like that. Probably sounds like amazing. But like,
Definitely.
I could also listen to her on Spotify and like on my surround sound. So it's like,
That's a
there's
good
that.
point. Yeah.
Um,
How's it do
but
numbers wise, you know?
I think so far, actually, I'll pull that right now. I think it's made a little over like $14 million. It like
Okay.
it had like a really bad opening, even like by like holiday box office standards. It did open
Right.
higher. It did open higher than the other holiday flop, which was Babylon. Um,
Babylon? Yeah, not hard, eh?
yeah. So I saw it. I told you I saw it. Um,
Yeah, of course.
now you're probably asking like, how could you you don't want to spend 3 hours and 12 minutes with like the people from Pandora, but like 3 hours and 9 minutes of an old Hollywood set movie. How did I get through that? Um, the first
That's a
hour
different
is
3 hours.
yeah, it's a different 3 hours, and the first hour is fucking amazing. Like I that movie like cracked my top 10 for the year based
Oh,
solely
nice.
on
That's
based solely on that first hour
okay.
because like it kind of like it doesn't get bad, but like it starts to like kind of meander a bit in like hour two, and then hour three isn't as good as like the 2 hours that preceded. But
Okay.
that first hour, I can see why I didn't do well because that first hour, there's a lot that happens that maybe older. I mean, young people aren't gonna really want to see it because like it's set in like the 1920s and like so, like it's gonna be a hard, it's a tough
Right.
sale, right? Now the
For
older
sure. That's what
demographic,
he's making them for.
right? But the older demographic might want to see something like that until they see like half the things that are, like especially in that first hour. There's just
The
a lot.
depravity, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets like so extreme, but like uh Damien Chazelle, he shoots it so well. Like it feels like you're there.
Of course.
And
He's
like
the man.
it's a very like immersive experience that first hour. Like I and I
Okay.
and I told all my friends because they were like, you put it in your top 10 at number 10. I was like, yeah, it got in there just based on that first
For
hour
that
alone.
hour.
That first hour was so great, and then like the acting is really good. Margot Robbie kills it. I'm sure. You know what? I still think even if because critics didn't like this movie that much either. It's kind of like split down the middle. Um,
Right.
it is
Very
it
much
is
so.
it is rotten on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, whatever.
But I still think she gets some attention for it. She's great in it.
One thing I haven't heard much about is Brad. I hear about Diego. I hear all the raving about Margot Robbie, who I'm sure deserves it. I have not heard much about Brad's performance. How does he do in that?
So he's good, but it's very much a Brad Pitt performance, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, like,
Okay, I love Brad Pitt, so I'm
because
expecting like that.
because he is like kind of like he is a Hollywood type, right? He can play that really well, and like, he kind of like it's like his personality, but like kind of kicked up a few notches. It's a good
Okay,
perform. It's a good performance. It's just that Margot Robbie, I mean,
kills
like
the show.
she's just a fucking firecracker. Like, I mean, like,
Yeah,
and like and like it sucks too because like I think she's getting nominated, and this is a girl that has like cranked out so many good performances in a really short amount of time. Uh, I think she's been nominated. She was nominated for I, Tonya. She was nominated for Bombshell, and she's gonna get one
oh,
for
that's
this.
right.
Yeah, and like you know, I mean, I know people that even her little part in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like they always talk about that one scene where like uh she goes to the movie theater in character to go watch like her movie, and like just the camera is just kind of like on her, and like she doesn't really have like dialogue in the scene, but it's like a really good like you know solid performance where like she doesn't really have to say much at all. um you know I maybe it's not her moment yet to win, but like gosh, she's put in so much work and effort to like really. I mean, this is like, I mean, she's even said it herself, like she laid it all out for this movie. Like she was like
Oh yeah.
she felt like this was like personally like the best stuff she's done, and like, and I mean it's 100% a 100% committed performance. Like that's the best way to describe it. Like she goes all in, and she's a tornado, and there's no stopping her,
She seems to. I
and she
can't wait to
kills.
see it. Her in it.
Now, why didn't this work? Box office wise, I think yeah, it's a tough sell. I think it's a tough sell to younger people. Even if you were
It's
like,
runtime.
I mean,
Even cheap.
the trailers really try to sell the like debauchery of it, and making sure that that Margot Robbie's in it, and Brad Pitt's in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we got some names. But it's a tough
Yeah.
sell to like. It's a tough sell to people that don't even know about that era in film, and that's gonna be like. And then it's an even tougher sell when it's 3 hours and 9 minutes. Um,
And it's against Avatar, so that didn't do
and
anything.
it's like an Avatar. Um, Also, I mean, I don't know if you want to see like a coke fueled like debauchery Hollywood set movie during Christmas. um, that could
I mean,
that
I
could
do. I don't blame people for not, but give
well,
it to
because like
me.
yeah, I mean, like someone mentioned, Wolf of Wall Street came out in December, the year it came out,
Oh,
and it did
interesting.
well. But I think that subject matter is a little easier to kind of sell, right? It's a little easier, like, and then you have Leo, and there's like a
Yeah.
combination of a lot of things, right? I think
Martin
that's why that
Scorsese's
worked.
a bigger name than Danny at that point as well. So a
Yeah,
lot of people
yeah,
would be going just for him as well.
yeah. I mean,
But
I saw Wolf of Wall Street on Christmas Day when it came out. I mean, and it was a packed theater, so it was like
that's
we
a
all had
good
this
Christmas day.
we all had the same idea, I guess, on Christmas Day
Yeah, I
to
guess
go see Wolf of
so.
Wall Street. I do remember when it came out, there were like some people that complained that like why would they release a movie like that uh, on Christmas
Yeah.
during the holiday season? It's just like you don't have to go see it if you don't
Yeah,
want
well,
to.
you went. Like, what a
Yeah, yeah,
weird
yeah, yeah,
complaint.
yeah. It's a weird like all right, no one made you go. like what?
Exactly. Like, that's how
And if
you
you
go and spend your time.
and if you like are that offended by the subject matter, get over it. I guess like you don't have to see it. Like
I don't get
I
that, man.
yeah, I enjoyed every moment of that on Christmas Day. It was great. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think what we kind of can learn from like the winter box office is don't bet against James Cameron ever. I
Of
guess.
course not.
He
Yeah.
actually just said, I think yesterday or today, I forgot when I read it, but like the movie has already hit the break even stage, so he has to make all those sequels that he Promise us. I'm
I
like,
know the third one's coming, but
yeah,
we'll
dude,
see.
I respect him as a filmmaker.
Me
I
too.
just like,
I can't take that away from him.
I just can't like. It's like hard for me to like think that like the next few years of output from him is just gonna be Avatar sequels.
I know.
Like,
I want to see him do other stuff.
this
He
is the
already
guy that
got a legacy.
directed the Terminator, Terminator 2, like Aliens, which like some people think is even better than Alien, like The Abyss, True
This was
Lies. I
great
mean,
too.
like he's made like this is the guy that like made some of like a lot of people consider their favorite movies, and now he's just been in lockstep with like this world in
I
Pandora
don't
that
know
he's
what
created.
it is. I
I
don't know
mean, like,
what it is that he wants to do so many with this one world. Like, imagine another James Cameron original sci-fi action thriller before he goes out. That would just be all I could want from him. Not
yeah,
seven Avatar movies,
and like,
but
and he's
more
kind of
action
said
though.
too that like he was like, well, he feels like he's getting to make different types of movies while doing this, like putting like different aspects in like different parts of the story for his Avatar sequels and stuff. But like, it's not the same. Like, it's not like you're not giving us something like new. And I get it. He wants to like
Right.
push the boundaries of like visuals and like he achieved that from like people I know that saw this one said that it's it's visually like stunning. Uh,
Absolutely.
so there's that. I mean, I get it, but like I just
I
like come on.
You
Like I
say
want
that,
to.
but then my mind goes to a filmmaker like Chris Nolan, who is known for pushing visual boundaries and a lot of other boundaries in film, and yet he makes an original movie every single time he comes to it. So,
Right. I
you know
agree.
what I mean?
That is a fantastic example because he could have easily because Warner Brothers would have had him do it if he wanted to. If he wanted to crank out more Dark Knight movies, Batman movies after the Dark Knight Rises, they probably would have let him.
I'm
And
sure
I'm glad that he was like, no, we're doing these
he
three.
knew that he could get fired.
That
Yep.
he actually and he knew that with Christian Bale. They both knew they were like, we're gonna do three of these. After they realized that Batman Begins was successful, they're like, all right, we can do the three movies we planned on doing. And I know a lot of that changed with like Heath Ledger passing away and all that, but like still they still got to
Yep.
make like the three movies they set out to make. And I am glad that in the meantime he still like gave us Inception and Interstellar and like
Yeah.
like he wasn't just like I'm just gonna make Batman movies the rest of my career. Like
That's right, and I'm so glad, like you said, that he knew when to stop and was still doing stuff in between them. Like he didn't let that consume
yeah,
his career, like I think James might be. Not that I know him, but
yeah, and
kind
like
of like seems like he's
and don't get me
following.
wrong, like would I've loved more Batman movies from him probably, but like
Sure.
but I'm also glad that like he was like I'm not gonna like use all of my creative juice on this like one franchise, this one
Mm.
thing. I think it was important for him to make other movies while he was doing uh these Batman movies, and I'm glad that he did because like we got great stuff out of him while he was like in the
Exactly.
midst of doing these. It's perfect.
And how
So
nice is it that you see a successful property like the Dark Knight trilogy not get extended out as long as it possibly could and strung out for as much money as possible, like you see virtually every other franchise these days
yep,
until no one wants to see it anymore. It's nice that you had the three amazing movies, and
yep.
then that was it. It was over. So
And my thing is too is like I'm sure whoever was like in charge of Warner Brothers at the time were like, like one part of their brain is like, yeah, we support your three movie vision, but they're probably
mhm.
also if he was like, oh, I want to do one more, they're like, yeah, that's yeah, you probably should.
No
So like,
doubt,
yeah,
I would turn
they
down
would,
those dollars.
yeah, they would not turn that down. But yeah, I mean, like, that's a really good example though. Christopher Nolan's a good example of like having other
Mm.
like kind of creative like things going on while you're a part of like this even bigger franchise and like I mean, if it's rewarding for James Cameron to just make Avatar movies, then I guess more power
That's what
to
it's down
him.
to. That's a great
Yeah,
point. This is his career, his time, his money. Where he wants to put it is all up to him, and I get
right.
that. As an enjoyer of his work and just a cinephile, I would love to see what he's learned and gathered from the Avatar movies and put it into something original.
Else, yeah,
That's just my two
because
cents.
like the biggest complaint about like Avatar, even the sequel, right, is that like yes, it's visually probably the best thing you've ever seen, right? But a lot of people, even the people that like it, talk about the story not being that original.
Right?
Um, there's a lot of comparisons to like Dances with Wolves and Ferngully and like there's a lot of that Pocahontas, right? So like so that's what makes it even more kind of difficult to swallow. It's like you're not really cranking out like an original masterpiece. Like visually you are, but like the story isn't. You're right. And I just selfishly like I brought this up to you before. Like I don't love Titanic either. So for me, like the last thing that he put out that I loved was like True Lies, and then like so like it's been like it's been a long time for me loving like a James Cameron movie. However, I was told because I think I rewatched Titanic 4 years ago. I think that was the last time I watched it.
Okay.
It's one of those things that people were like, "Oh, you should watch it again." But I've seen it like enough, I think, to know that like it's just not my thing. But like I like aspects of it. I like technical aspects of it. I think the last hour is really good. And like my friends joking, well, that's when the boat sinks, right? And I was like, well, yeah, but there's a lot going on though. There's a lot more like emotion in that last hour because like I don't love the love story that much. It's like kind of whatever.
Right.
But yeah, visually he did some great things even back then, like '97 with like Titanic. I just didn't get all the hoopla. Like I remember when it like won Best Picture, and I was like, ugh. That's like,
yeah.
I mean, it's like, I mean, there were so many better movies that it was against, and I was like, all right, whatever. And I was like, but he's gonna sweep. He's gonna win Best Picture. It's gonna win Best Director. It did. It was just that kind of movie, right? And then like, I know there's certain movies that like I kind of dig my heels on, and that's one of them, I guess, and Avatar.
Maybe I'm not arguing with you at all.
Maybe I just have to have like I should like take a moment and like discuss all of my like James Cameron feelings about how he's let me down since True Lies.
James Cameron therapy session.
I know, like but yeah, man, I think that's what we learned from the box episode. Don't bet against him. More power to him. I'm glad that like even though I haven't seen it, I'm glad that people are going to see it because it's really important for the industry. And that same note, like I'm glad like I said, like something like Megan is doing really well too. That's also really important. I think that's like what we can kind of take from that is like people still want to go to the movies and they will go if it's worth their time. Like if they really want to see something. I talked about this when I did the Good Will Hunting episode, and we were talking about how that movie did really well when it came out. The year it came out because it was a platform release. They released it slowly. They let it build momentum and ended up making like $225 million worldwide. That does not happen for like adult movies today.
No.
Like I think if you released if Spielberg had came out with The Fabelmans like 97, 98, I think that movie would have made a lot of money then. For some reason it's not. I think 2020 when everything shut down, it kind of changed people's viewing habits a bit, right?
It kind of ended like an era.
Yeah, and I think like, and then when movie theaters started to come back, it was like, all right, do I really want to watch like this adult drama in the theater, or can I just watch it at home? And that makes more sense. And I think that kind of hurt like adult skewy movies like a lot, like movies like The Fabelmans. I guess even movies like Babylon, right? I mean, like they're geared. Yeah, I mean, like there's not a huge rush to like go out and see them, and it's unfortunate because like I think that's what makes like it hard for like when people are like, why are people watching like the Oscars more? Like why are ratings like going down each year? And like it sucks to say unless they're like people like you who's like a fan or like me because of work. Like some people haven't seen like half the things that get nominated, and it sucks. It's not a detriment to like the Academy. Like, good, nominate those movies. Like, people should know about them, but you have to also understand that like most people, like if you're just talking about like just casual moviegoers, may not have seen like that one independent movie that made like $4 million. Like like it's like
right.
And then it ends up getting like a ton of nominations, and everyone's like, I've never even heard of it. Like is that like bad on them because like maybe they should have taken the time to like seek it out, maybe,
right?
But yeah, I mean, like it's a different time, man. It sucks. I mean, like yeah, it's crazy to me that like Spielberg can release a movie and like it technically flops
and it not do well. I know.
And not do well.
Saying this as well. blows my mind.
He got a taste of this like last year when West Side Story came out and didn't make a ton of money, but you know it's like Spielberg, like you know,
It doesn't
I
matter. His name
I
is
remember,
on.
dude, I remember covering box office during that period, and I don't know, I was just very careful not to like. I didn't want to call it a flop because I just felt really bad. It was like Spielberg, and it's still. I mean,
Yeah,
it's got Oscar nominations though. Like, come on, like I was trying to be positive about it,
and
but
Brie
yeah,
won, didn't she?
she didn't get nominated for an Oscar, but she was nominated for like a SAG award. Like
Oh, oh, okay.
she was nominated for like a lot of stuff leading up to the Oscars, and
Maybe I'm
it was a
thinking
big
something else.
yeah, it was a big deal with her because I remember she wasn't invited because she wasn't nominated, but she was in the West Side Story. So, and then she kind of made like a public stink about it in a very like very classy way on Instagram
Right,
about how she wasn't invited, and then they quickly invited her because like why wouldn't you invite
right,
the lead of the movie that you nominate for Best Picture? Like
right.
you should probably she should probably like
Yeah.
not be watching the Oscars from her house. She
No,
should probably
not at all.
she should be able to go. Um, but yeah, man. I'm just glad that at least some movies are doing well, and then hopefully this year, uh, like those kind of viewing habits will change a bit. Maybe people will like actually take the time to see certain movies in theaters. I also think you got a hint of it during that week that Knives Out, the sequel, was playing in theaters. It did well, and it wasn't even in that many theaters. It was like in 650 locations, and
It,
like it did
it was
crazy
for a
good
week, right?
for 1 week. So like, and that's
Yeah,
like an adult skewing. I mean, I think it appeals to everyone, but like, you know, that
right.
the cast alone is more like appeals to like an older audience, and like they ate it up. And if Netflix had played it longer than a week, it would have made like a lot of money. I think.
Probably
I
would
mean,
have
the
done well,
the
absolutely.
first one made a ton of money. So like, it's you know, it's. I think like I said, it just depends on the project, right? Depends on the movie, what appeals. Like, I remember when House of Gucci opened, like I think whenever it opened in November of like last year, or like the year before last, whatever. And
Yep.
that movie did well. It like appealed to an older audience, but I think that you have to know how to sell it, right? It's Lady Gaga, and it's like a
Mm.
true crime story. Like there's all these elements that like kind of like they were able to push that, and we're like, all right, we'll go see that. I think it just
It is
depends on the
absolutely crazy to me. Sorry, I don't even
yeah.
cut you off there.
No, no, you're good.
I was gonna say, it's crazy that Ridley Scott put out that and The Last Duel both that year. And The Last Duel, just speaking of poor box office performance, historical epic, which flopped and Gucci did much
Yeah.
better than it, I'm sure. But those movies I both thoroughly enjoyed in the box office last year. I saw them both in theaters and loved
Yeah,
them.
I actually saw them both in theaters. I what's funny is that The Last Duel came out the same weekend as Halloween Kills, and I saw both of them that weekend.
Nice,
And I just remember like
nice.
the lack of people in my screening for The Last Duel, and then like the packed house for Halloween Kills, and I was like, "Oh, this is not looking good for one of these movies.
No,
Not looking good at
it's
all."
sad because Ridley does historical epics like nobody else around. He's probably the greatest living director in terms of his
Agreed.
historical epics, and it was amazing. But you're right,
Yeah,
just nobody was there to see it.
I agree. So I guess you know, the podcast is always it's funny because like when we started, we are like, we're not gonna always talk about Marvel or DC. There's other things going on, right? But then like sometimes they're the only thing going on, and so you have to talk
Yeah,
about it.
that's right.
Um,
Yeah.
so so when you were on, DC was a big story, and it's actually a big story again because like Variety wrote a really interesting piece about just it felt mostly about Black Adam and how Dwayne Johnson kind of like allegedly carried himself while getting that movie made. And then we also learned about other little things in that article about like maybe James Gunn wanting to keep Ezra Miller as the Flash, like despite
Oh,
all
right.
despite all of their issues. So when we recorded, we had talked about like what they're gonna do with Black Adam, and I think like a few days later they were like, all right, Black Adam 2 is not
Not
moving
going
forward.
forward.
And like
Right.
and then I'm sure that was a tough tweet for Dwayne Johnson to put out there. um,
I'm sure.
you know, and that became clear right away. But then, like, you know, I guess like the biggest thing about the Variety piece is that the Warner Brothers execs were like really upset that he kind of went over them to like the new CEO and pitched this like basically like this like Black Adam almost like universe and then bringing back Henry Cavill, and it's all culminating in this like epic like Black Adam versus Superman, which you know what,
Yeah.
would appeal to like the 16-year-old and all of us, right? Probably, but it might not be the best creative direction, I guess, right? Um,
Right.
but I guess what like you kind of learn from that is like even like he tried to flex his muscles a bit, and he got his way, but like what at what cost though? Because now like it seems like so many people are interested in writing articles about him where it seems like it's a little bit more negative, where it's like, oh,
I agree.
like they
So
want to
I'll give
throw
you the
the
help.
yeah, they want to throw the flop in his face. It feels like it feels like they want to like throw it in
It
the like
does.
you did all this work to get this made, and like
Look how
but why
poorly it went.
like how poorly it went, and I guess even someone like him, which seems like he's like I thought he was like universally loved by everyone, um but I feel like the industry, even with someone like him, they always want to like knock you down like a couple like yeah, your head's getting too big, so like,
That's right.
and I feel like that's what they're doing with him a little bit.
I can't disagree. No, you're absolutely right. I feel like there's been a lot more attention in recent years, maybe the last year or two, about him playing himself and the same role in
Well,
many of
yeah,
his movies, and that get a lot of attention. And I think people are starting to get sick of that, and then that brings on more negativity. And like you said, like people just like to be negative. It's easier to be negative sometimes, and
yeah,
you're right. He is suffering from negative press lately, which sucks to see. But like, I'm a little conflicted over how I even feel about the whole Black Adam thing. I haven't seen it, but I see where people are coming from, but I don't want to
yeah,
see him do bad either.
yeah. I
But
agree. Does it make it? Does it make it? Does it make you not want to see it now? Now that it's not really going to be like a part of this like greater thing that they're doing with DC? Like, it's like, what's the point?
very much so. Like the reasons, and if I ever do come around to seeing it, will be to examine it and to like see how it fits into this whole DC charade. Not from entertainment value do I want to go see it because it's just not really up my alley. I may someday plop down, throw it on, but if I do, it'll be to examine how his role in this microcosm has really gone. You know what I mean? Especially if they do decide to bring him in at any point down the line, that'd be more of an excuse to see his movies from last year as well.
Yeah.
But one thing that I'll need you to put together for me, like just by doing this research and hearing these stories come out, I can't piece together when exactly this happened, when he went over the studio exec head to the CEO. When did that all happen?
So this was like, I guess, after the Warner Brothers Discovery like merger, right? So then like Zaslav comes in as the new CEO, and now
Okay.
and then this is also happening as like Walter Hamada is on his way out of like the DC part of things. So
Okay.
they're like in flux. They had no one like in charge of DC,
Uh,
what is now like DC Studios, which is what James Gunn and Peter Safran are doing now. There was no one in
right.
charge of that. So like he
Uh,
could technically, like, he's one of the biggest stars in the industry. If you want to get, I mean, he's also like producing it too. So it's not like he was just like an actor who was like, oh, I want to get this done. Like, it's also like he's the money guy of the movie too, or part of it. He has like he has like a producing team and stuff, but like he also needs it to do well on his end as well. And like, I don't see anything wrong because like he was basing it according to him. I mean, I'm sure there was like some like selfish financial things, like this could be really successful if we can get Henry Cavill back. Um, but he was really pushing it because that's what the fans want, right? The fans want Henry Cavill back, and I bet they would love to see him like in this like grudge match with like myself as Black Adam eventually. Like he says he's listening
yeah.
to like what they're saying, right? And on one level, he's not totally wrong because fans love Henry Cavill. I've always said that like I think he's a great Clark Kent Superman. I just thought that other than Man of Steel, he just had like the misfortune of not being in great movies as a character. He was fine.
Right.
He's
Right. Wrong time.
yeah,
Classic.
yeah. So like if they brought him back, I was like, cool. I would love to have him as like my Superman, and I think that's what Dwayne Johnson tried to do. And like, but I think even when you're him, if you try to go over people and like kind of like because they're
Yeah.
like because like, I guess one of those execs back in like 2018 was like, wanted to replace Henry Cavill. They were like, we want someone new. And so I think that's what ruffled their feathers, is that like, all right, now he's going above us to kind of be like, no, this is what I want. And he got his way. He got the cameo, right? He got like, it ended up working out, but then now it didn't, because of course, bring in James Gunn, Peter Safran, everything gets undone. Now we got no Wonder Woman 3. We don't know if we have Gal Gadot. Maybe we don't. I don't know.
That's a good segue into Ezra.
Ezra Miller, yeah.
What the fuck, man? There's got to be some clear insight into why they would even entertain keeping him on with nobody else being kept on in the future. I don't understand.
Yeah, so like that's what I mean. I of course we'll get like a bigger picture of this when they announce part of their plan. I guess it's supposed to be this month.
Okay.
It does. It almost feels like you're rewarding bad behavior by, and I'm not saying that like Ezra Miller can't get help. Yeah, and since we haven't heard a peep from Ezra Miller, I'm assuming that he's getting the help that he needs, and like I think that's great, but
absolutely,
he did a lot.
You don't have criminal charges against Ezra? So what is, you have every reason in the book, every piece of ammo you would need to be like, look, we're not going forward with this character. That should be obvious. I just don't get why they'd even be like, maybe we'll keep them on for the future. We don't know yet.
Yeah, and it's
I read that.
Yeah, and my thing is like, I get it, right? Like, you can't do anything about the movie you already shot. Like, that's fine. And like, fair. and apparently in that same article, they're like, they feel like the Flash is like on the level of like the Dark Knight. They think it's like really good. So I mean, I want to believe that, but it's also Warner Brothers. So I don't, great if it's great, awesome. And I guess I could see like some scenario where like Ezra Miller hasn't been in the media at all lately. You can like crank out like a few interviews before the movie comes out, like a whole like apology tour. I can almost see it in my head. Like, I'm sorry for all the bad things I did. I was in a really messed up place, blah 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 blah.
And think people be able to get him to do that? Can you see it happen?
I mean, I don't think they can corral him enough to do it. I don't know.
Like, that's what I'm thinking. But yet it remains seen.
Yeah, and like, but I wholeheartedly agree with you though. Like, if there was a moment to be like, yo, we can just use the reset as an excuse to like, to get someone new, and it's either like someone at that studio really loves Ezra Miller.
Definitely.
I'm not opposed to like second chances, but I think in Ezra Miller's case, it'd be like a 5th, 6th, 7th chance. I don't know. A lot happened in a year. A lot happened.
Normally, I wouldn't be so opposed to like seeing Ezra stay on with the future ones, but where they've made some of the hardest cuts they've had to make, like Henry and Gal saying we're not going forward with your characters. Why even bring any character if you're going to let go of those titans of your franchise? Why are you keeping Ezra on? Like that just
right.
When they let go of Henry, I thought that was the nail in the coffin for everybody that was attached.
Yeah, I thought they were just gonna like do it
clean slate.
Yeah, clean slate.
And the fact that it's Ezra, considering everything that they've done in the last few months, and that they're still not completely let go, like that. Just the only thing, and I don't want to reach or like go into conspiracy here, but they do have, I'm told, quite like a big Super Bowl ad for promotions for that movie, right? I'm thinking maybe there's a chance they just want to appease Ezra in the meantime until the movie comes and goes, and before they really be like, okay, we're not going forward with you. It's the only thing I can think to justify why they wouldn't let him go right now.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like
who knows.
I actually kind of agree with that. I think like I feel like they're doing a wait and see approach to this, right? Like they had to like, okay, like the movie will come out, and if Ezra Miller on his best behavior, then all right, we feel justified in keeping him on as a character, right? Now, if he goes off the rails, then you're like, all right, we tried. We're gonna go in a different direction.
I also have to see how these court cases go, because I'm assuming they'll have some time in court, these criminal charges. So I mean, we'll see how that all and that will definitely have implications going forward, I'd imagine.
And by the way, I think the wait and see approach with something like this doesn't seem like the smartest move ever. Like, it's like I think
No,
it's
I
sort of
don't think
like
so either.
I think you just kind of know when you're a studio and you've been watching this like a year, right? I think this was all going on like all last year,
Yep.
and it like and what made me more upset because we were covering this on the podcast too is that they weren't saying anything. Like Warner Brothers was just like not commenting on it for like a while. I was like, this like he's the lead of like this future big tentpole release you have coming out, and you're not saying anything about his behavior. Like meanwhile, like you can get canceled for like sneezing the wrong way, like depending on who you are. So it's like
Yeah.
and like so it's like why like the fact that they like were just so radio silent about not even like I would have like accepted like a total like typical like like we're trying to see if he can get the help he needs, like blah blah blah, like something like that. Like
Not condemning, but yeah.
yeah, but like it was like silence was like their choice. And like and so
Interesting.
and then they were getting upset when like all these like trades were like somebody was leaking information in these trades about like what they were gonna think. They were like they had like three options with the movie. They were like, and one of them they really didn't want to do, which is like scrap it, and it's hard to scrap a $200 million movie.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, and then they had to do like we release it and recast later, or we just kind of see how it goes with him and see if he gets better. And they've chose that one so far.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind it for like the release of this new movie, but like I kind of feel some
Right.
kind of way about like oh you want like future projects like sequels and like
That's what
crossovers like everything you want to go
That's what I'm
all
like,
in.
what the hell?
You want to get rid of Gal Gadot. Now, yeah, however you might feel about, I mean, I didn't love Wonder Woman 1984, but loved Wonder Woman. And I didn't love Batman versus Superman, but her stuff in that I enjoyed. So you have like a really good, like solid lead actress who, like, she is all in about playing that character. I know we kind of talked about it before. We're like, all right, does she want to be all in, or she only want to be all in only if Patty Jenkins is involved? And if that's the case, then like I can see her being like, all right, I want to step away. But if the choice is on them to be like, yeah, we're kind of doing like a kind of reset, and these like big names that like probably benefit us keeping, we're gonna get rid of. And of course, we don't know everything yet. We're just speculating, right? But
Right, exactly. Keep that in mind.
but we
Right.
know for sure you got rid of Henry Cavill, like that. And however you might feel about like Dwayne Johnson, like that's a big name to get rid of too. Like I mean, that's a huge name, and like you want that name in your corner, I would think. You know what? And this is petty. This is petty as fuck. But I would love just to see what would happen. I would just love Marvel to like snatch up Dwayne Johnson and snatch up Henry Cavill.
Henry.
Yeah, and like
Oh, you're totally right.
yeah, and just like see how everything works out. Just watch Twitter
Going
explode.
Marvel, like I can't say it's out of the realm of possibility. You know what I mean? But we'll see what
Dude,
if that's really what they're
I'm
gonna
serious
do.
though. I mean, if I'm Kevin Feige, like I'm making a phone call, I'm like, hey, we don't know what the part is yet, but we have something for you down the line. Like,
Totally.
so keep your head up. Like, he like Henry Cavill's gonna be totally fine. It's just like, I think it was more of a bummer for like the fans, and then it was just so weird, like you said, like clusterfuck to read that about Ezra Miller. I was like, you actually had.
I expected
I'm
to
like,
read.
are you having meetings where you're like, yeah, we're gonna stick with that one. We're gonna
Like I
see
could
how
not
that.
picture that happening. I
Yeah, I
could
was
not
like,
see them
what?
jeopardizing this brand new vision that they have going forward by keeping Ezra on. Like it just does not make sense to me. There's clearly something going on behind closed doors that we are not privy to. I can't wait to find out what it is, that they would even entertain that thought. But I mean, who knows? Maybe in the next month or so, like you said, when they start releasing the details of what's going forward, we will be able to make sense of that. But
Yeah,
from now, from this perspective, it's like I don't understand at all.
at all. Yeah, and of course, when they release part of their plan, I'm sure even if it's like a really great plan, somebody's gonna complain about it.
You can't appease everybody. You're
Can't
right.
make everyone happy. Like, I mean,
Exactly.
and they but they
Those
knew
are
that
a lot of
going.
times.
Yeah, they knew that going in though. I mean, they knew that they would like get an onslaught of like
James
you
said that
know,
himself. Yeah.
angry fans who act like they're writing the checks and all that stuff. It seems like they get they get way too invested in like I'm like dude like
Yes, they do.
no like I think we talked about this before like people get mad about certain things and they get over it like it's just like oh like Robert
Right.
Pattinson's gonna be Batman. Right, Robert Pattinson's gonna be Batman. It was like, oh, why the guy from Twilight? He sucks. And then they see it, they're like, oh, he's great.
And
And
we
like,
very well may be in that camp here soon if Ezra surprises us, and we may think it's a good idea in a year from now. Who knows? But from right
yeah,
now, it's sketchy.
and I'm like, I was like, I know a lot of people, some people agree with this. I was always that person that was like, yo, I know you want to keep the TV universe and the movie universe separate, but you got a good Flash like right there on the CW. Like
Right.
Grant Gustin probably wouldn't have made this his final season if you like threw him a movie. Like he got a perfectly good Flash like right there, and like it's just like no, we want to keep those things separate. Like,
Well,
how
that's the thing.
yeah,
The Flash opens up a lot of opportunities to do some, crossover
yeah, the
stuff.
whole
So
like
who knows if that's what they have planned
yeah. I mean,
with Ezra.
like yeah, like I said, we don't know for sure. But it is fun to speculate. And I'm glad you felt the
Yes, it
same
is.
way when you read that because I actually my eyes got like wide. I was like, "What?" I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay." I was like, "All
I
right."
wish I could have seen my face.
Like, whatever, dude. All right. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I want to trust James Gunn. I mean, he's got a great creative mind, and he's also like a fan. Like, he's not just like a business guy doing this. Like, he like really
You're
cares
right.
about it. So like, I'm trusting it for now, even if I
And I'm
think
keeping a close eye on it too.
yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. That's perfect. That's a
Yeah.
great way of putting it. Me too. Cautiously
Uh,
optimistic.
yeah. And what else happened? Oh, so there was also we got the trailer for Evil Dead Rise, which I
Oh my god.
oh,
Yes.
which is funny because this is also related to Warner Brothers because this was gonna be an HBO Max release, but then
Oh.
one of the smart things I guess they did is that they saw a cut of the movie and they're like, no, this should be a theatrical release. So that makes me feel like they have like confidence in it.
Yes. I'm glad that you
Um,
know that stuff because I did not know anything about that, and I'm so glad for that decision because I want to go see that movie in the theater. I was excited even just reading it on paper. I remember following this movie from its original conception, and I remember when I figured out Fede Alvarez wasn't attached to it, and I was kind of like my heart sank a
yeah,
little bit. And now seeing this trailer finally after a year or so of following the production of this movie, I can say that I'm on board. My buddies that I sent them the link of the trailer as soon as it dropped. They all agree. They were pleasantly surprised with the direction it's going.
yeah.
Cannot wait for that movie. Trailer blew me away.
Yeah, I can't wait either. So they released there was a trailer that they played ahead of Megan. That's not the Red Band trailer, because Megan's PG-13. So they couldn't
Oh,
show
okay,
they couldn't show the first one I saw. So the Red Band trailer is like a horror movie fan's dream. I think it just looks like it
That's
looks
the one I thought
gory.
was
It
good.
looks bonkers. It looks like everything that you would want from like an Evil Dead movie. And I love that. Like even though Eddie Alvarez isn't doing this, I do love it. It seems like they're kind of keeping that aesthetic that he kind of set up in that reboot.
Absolutely, it does. Yep, you're
Because
right.
I honestly think like that reboot made money, but I still think it's kind of underrated. Like I think like a lot of people don't like give it the attention. Like it's a really good like horror movie reboot. Like it's solid. Um, and I'm glad that they were kind of. It seems like they're just really keeping that aesthetic going with this new one,
Well,
and
it works, so I hope they do.
it actually
No
looks
word of a
scary. Like it looks like scary. Like I was like even the non-Red Band trailer that I saw ahead of Megan was like it creeped out like the audience I saw it with. Like they were like loving it.
That's awesome.
But it looks so good, and like yeah, I'm glad that like they decided to go theatrical with it. That makes me feel more confident that like maybe they know they have something really good.
Yeah, which that's a great sign. I think it's very promising. The one thing that I did want to touch on specifically about this movie that I am excited about, that I was kind of nervous about when I just was reading this on paper. It's different to see it on the screen, but moving this into a more urban setting from out of the cabin in the woods.
Right.
I was like, I don't know how that's going to go, but I'm a fan of the direction of that in the trailer.
Yeah, Yeah, from the trailer, that looks like a solid movie. I mean, like, I mean, I've talked about this with like certain horror movies, right? Like with Scream, like I'm glad like with this new one that's coming out, like it's gonna be set in New York. Like it's good to get out of Woodsboro and not be in the same location
About
again.
time.
I mean, like that's why
Yep.
Scream Two. That's why Scream Two is so good. Like, cause it takes place in college and like it's not in Woodsboro. Like, it's good to like kind of like get away from what's familiar. I think that is a harder sell with like Evil Dead because like that is like the whole cabin in the woods like aesthetic is like very much like in its DNA, right? Um,
Exactly.
but I love the idea of this like kind of like high rise, like like really like this different kind of like setting that they're putting it in. Because it can have its own kind of like feeling of like isolation and dread, like in a very different way, I think. Um, so yeah, I think it's
You're
good to kind of
absolutely
mix
right.
it up and like kind of get out. But yeah, I was a little worried too because it is that's the usual setting for Evil Dead is like pretty much part of its core, right? So like that, I was really worried when I read that. I was like, I wonder if it'll work as well. But like judging from the trailer,
I'm
I
happy to say
think
it looks like it's a good direction for that. And it looks
yep,
like there were some clips in the trailer of a lake or something, so I'm sure we'll get some sort of footage from maybe
right,
a cabin scene or a lake scene. But generally, it looks like they're gonna be keeping it all in that apartment or high-rise building, and I think it looks
yeah,
creepy as fuck, man. I'm
yeah.
ready for
I
that
think
one.
I think it's gonna be good. And I know it seems like I mean, 2022 was a great year for horror movies. It seems like that's carrying
Yeah,
on into this year. Like it's just like
yeah,
I mean, yeah, you said it earlier, like they're cheap to make, right? But then like that's why they make a lot of money and like the younger demographic like eats up horror. Like, you know,
mm-hmm.
we talked about Blumhouse, like they turn a profit after like their opening day usually for some of their movies because they're so cheap to
Mm-hmm.
make. But like I really feel like there are a lot of like filmmakers now that aren't just making like horror for the sake of horror. They're making like really good stories and like really like interesting different takes on it. And
Yeah. Ari Aster comes to
and
mind.
yeah, I mean like yeah, that's a really good example. And like it's just like like what do they call it? Like in the new Scream, they call it like elevated horror, which is like the more like
Elevated.
which is kind of funny
Yeah,
because like that I thought that joke was so dead on because there are certain horror movies that like critics love and then you
yeah.
like you throw that movie on to like a regular person or like no like I'm like
I've
I
done that, made that mistake before.
like like
Pretty much any
I,
A24 horror.
yes, yeah, any A24 horror, like if it has like a 90% or more on Rotten Tomatoes, then your regular like movie going friend probably won't like it.
Exactly. Save for a
And
few
it,
exceptions, but
and that filmmaker is a very good example because I remember trying to show people Hereditary and they're like no, and then Midsommar was like another
not for
one. They were like
everybody.
no, not for everyone.
Now that's pretty much liked over from my neck of the woods. A lot of people that I
I
know, like casual
love
filmmakers
it.
or film lovers, enjoy Midsummer, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I even like sat through that extended director's cut too. That's how much I loved it. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, me
uh,
too, man.
but yeah, it's just a really good time, I think, for that genre, and they've kind of it seems like they're keeping it going, and it's interesting too because like I think Evil Dead comes out in April, and you have like
I
we'll
was
have a
gonna
new
ask you that.
yeah it comes out in April. We'll have a new Scream in March. Yeah, Megan in
Fuck
January.
yeah,
Like it's
man.
just like I feel like we're getting a horror movie like every month in theaters right now.
I'm okay with
Uh,
that. Let's go.
yeah, I'm all about like it's weird. I don't even think it's like a revival. It's just like it's not like one type of like horror movie is doing well. It's like it's different subgenres of it that are like it's not just slasher movies or like stuff like that. I mean it's there's like psychological horror and then like there's kind of like the haunted house stuff like that still does really well. It
Yeah,
seems like there's like everything that horror is just like king again, which is nice. And I think what we learned during the pandemic was like when especially younger people were going back to the movies, those were the movies that were making money. Like cause
yeah.
like they weren't afraid to go to
People
the
love
movies.
being
They're like,
scared.
yeah, they were like, I'll wear my mask, whatever. Let's go see Halloween Kills. Like let's just do that. Like, like and
Mm,
like it's great to see that, especially as a horror fan, because I love horror movies. So it's nice to see them like being successful right now. Uh
I absolutely agree. There's nothing better.
Yeah. So on the other note, like the other trailer, like there was a trailer for a movie called You People, which I didn't like wasn't paying attention to that much, even though like it was one of those things where I saw it like it came up in my email to like posted, and I was like kind of ignored it, and then
Mhm.
before I even watched the trailer, I was like looking down the cast list. I was like, oh, this is like a pretty hefty cast for a comedy. You got Eddie Murphy, you
Yeah.
got Jonah Hill, like Mike Epson. Like there's so many different like uh people in it. And then I read more that like Kenya Barris like co-wrote it with Jonah Hill. I had no idea. Like we were talking
Okay.
about things that like I just discovered. Like that was I was like, oh shit. I had
Yeah.
it looks really funny. I kind of like it sucks that like comedy doesn't really play that well in theaters anymore, which is why I mean this is going to Netflix and that's fine. Like I mean it's it is what it is.
Oh, it's gonna be a Netflix release. I didn't catch
Yeah,
that.
it's a Netflix movie and I know
Interesting.
comedy's been a hard thing at the box office like lately. Um and
Yep.
specific types of comedies are really hard at the box office. Like it's so weird that like
Glad you mentioned that.
yeah, it's so weird. Like it's not like we weren't that far away from like super bad and like all that's like all those making a ton of money in theaters
Uh,
like not like knocked up and like something like neighbors like bridesmaids like hangover. It doesn't seem that
yeah,
we were like
classic.
that was like that long ago where those movies were making so much money. um but now like it's hard to like most of these go to Netflix now or they go streaming. um Occasionally you get lucky and like you get something like The Lost City, which I think that did well based on like you got Sandra Bullock and you got Channing Tatum and like they sold it
Right.
on like they sold it on them more than like the comedy aspect of it and that worked. um but yeah, it's weird that that genre is like kind of faded out a
Well,
bit
you know
in
what?
theaters.
I find comedy has a lot of parallels to horror in the sense, and I'll get to this in a minute. You probably don't know. I don't know if we've had the chance to discuss this. Comedy is by far my least favorite genre of movies. Like I struggle to sit down. Like
It's
classic. You said
it's mine.
Superbad. It's like one of my favorites. The good
Yeah,
ones I love to death, but like it's rare you'll see me like throw on like an Adam Sandler movie that's not like Uncut Gems or I just want to Paul Thomas Anderson. I can't
oh
think of
oh
the
punch
title of the movie.
punch like
Punch Drunk
love.
Love, exactly.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Adam Sandler comedy, not my thing. Like my friends know this about me, but in the sense that it's similar to horror, because they can be sold and driven by big names. They're generally pretty cheap to make, and you can produce a comedy script probably overnight. It seems. So I feel like that's why they can be so successful and why there's so many of them. I feel like, especially in the last 10 years, we've got this oversaturation of comedy because they're so easy to produce and put out. And that you're right to your point, it's kind of stagnated. We haven't really gotten those great ones like we have of times previous. And I think that's
Yeah.
kind of why.
Yeah. That's a there's a few things I want to touch on that. Comedy is also my least favorite genre to
Oh, okay,
watch.
right on.
Um, Now when they're good, they're really good. Like,
Exactly.
but
They got to be
I'm
really
the
good.
same. I'm the same way as you. Like, I'm not popping in like Happy Gilmore just like watch, just like I'm bored and I
Right.
want to watch something. I that won't be
That's
that.
a bunch of
Um,
friends. It's easy to agree on a comedy, but
yeah, and honestly,
uh,
when something's not funny, it's like so like it's so obvious that it's not. So it's like very
yeah.
like I have friends that love this movie. I don't. I've never liked Napoleon Dynamite. I always felt like I was like not in on like some inside joke.
Okay.
Like everyone was, I was like, all right, whatever.
I'm
And
I'm
like,
too far removed to have an opinion. I haven't seen it in forever, but I remember enjoying it, but I was so young, so irrelevant opinion.
yeah, but
But
yeah,
interesting.
but like so many people love it, and like there's certain like most people will rather like want to laugh, right? They want to watch a movie like they want to forget about like the troubles of the world and watch something funny. Like I'm the
Right.
person that's like I want to watch like a hard hitting drama like like by myself.
Yeah. That's what I'm
Uh,
saying.
um, but you're right. I mean, I think like I thought the you people thing was it looks funny. I thought the interesting thing about it though is like the times that we're in are just so different now. Like you know, 10 years ago, an Eddie Murphy movie would be in like a theatrical release. He wouldn't be something that he was like selling to Netflix or like it would be sold as like
Yeah.
his name. Like even Jonah Hill. I mean been in a lot of great comedies. Arguably, like we talked about Superbad. He's in Knocked Up. Uh, 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump
Superbad.
Street are both really
21 Jump Street is the
yeah, also really
epitome of
good.
the Jonah Hill comedy.
Yeah, and like I mean, but even now, like it's crazy. Like I always I keep bringing up the Lost City, but I remember before it opened, there was like a lot of pressure, like from like even in interviews, they would ask Sandra Bullock, mostly her, because like that movie's a romantic comedy, and those don't really do well at the box office anymore either. But what they did with the marketing, instead of selling like the romantic comedy part of it, they sold the
Mm-hmm.
like action adventure, like mismatched pair like part of it. Like you
That's
couldn't
what I
really
took away from that movie.
right. You couldn't
I
really
never
read from the
saw it. I didn't know it
trailers
was a
that
romantic comedy.
yeah, you cannot read from the trailers that like it's a romantic comedy with those
Did
two.
not know that. Did not know that at
Um,
all.
and that was I think that was a smart way to promote it because it was like that genre hasn't been doing well, and like and now
Right.
like and I've talked about like are there people like in the industry now like kind of like are still like name above the movie kind of stars where you're like, all right, I want to see that movie because so and so's in it, because Sandra Bullock's in it, because Julia Roberts is in it, because George Clooney's in
Right.
it. Like how many people of like how many movie stars do you have like that exist today? And I always go to Tom Cruise. I think Tom Cruise is one of them. I think he's a reliable presence and almost like, even though it might seem like he's playing the same part lately a lot, but it's working for him right now.
Doing
And like,
well. Yeah.
um, but there's only a few of them left. I mean, I guess Sandra Bullock proved with that movie that she is an above. Like people will go see something because she's in it, especially when it's something funny.
Right.
Because she's even though she's done great dramatic work, she's like mostly known for being like she was like America's sweetheart. Like she was like
Yeah. She's
Julia.
versatile. She can do anything.
She was like Julia Roberts 2.0, like when she first started,
Yeah.
and
That's a good
like
comparison.
and so like people like her, and she's a reliable presence, right? And like you know, Ticket to Paradise with Julia Roberts and George Clooney, that quietly made money, but like they were
Okay.
even in interviews with them, they were like, "Were you worried about like were you ever gonna like send this to streaming?" And they were like, "No, like we wanted it to like go to theaters because we don't think that the romantic comedy is like a dead genre. We want to." And they were smart. They released it first overseas. They made a lot of money overseas, and then they released it here, and it did pretty well here. Not as good as like The Lost City, but like still like
Okay.
for a genre that is technically dying.
I would slip that on
But
my radar. I wasn't familiar with that one.
yeah, it almost slipped under mine because like I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't like hear about it until I saw how much money it was making like abroad, and I was like, why is this movie doing so well? And like, and it did so
My
well
God.
because it's Julia Roberts and it's George Clooney. Like I mean, like that. I mean,
Yeah.
they
Big
are
stars.
so and abroad they care about bankable stars. Like they really care about like you know famous people. Which is why like
Yeah.
that's why people like Brad Pitt do so well. Like there's certain people that are like international like stars, and I think like those are one of them. And
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean like yeah, I'm just thinking about like like when I was just talking about that trailer, and I was like, dude, it sucks that like we're so far removed from like that time we were talking about where it's like they're just super bad or knocked up. Like you want to go see that in the theater, like that doesn't happen anymore. And now you're watching it at home. Uh, and like usually, I
What?
mean, I don't always have people over like when I watch stuff like that. So I would want to like
Right.
watch a comedy with like a group of people because it's more fun to watch a comedy with a group of
That's what I
people.
enjoy the most.
But
Yeah, with
now
an
it's just
audience.
like, but now it's like, all right, I gotta watch this Netflix comedy like alone in my room, which is not
See,
as
now you people would be one I'd throw on alone. I was pleasantly surprised with the trailer. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything bad going in. I didn't really know much about. I had seen the stuff on paper, but didn't really pay attention to the genre. Once I found out Jonah Hill had written it, this didn't surprise me. I did enjoy it so much because this is a comedy I think that has been curated by a quality writer and performer like in Jonah
right,
Hill, which is why I was surprised to have enjoyed it because in the hands of any other like a typical Hollywood writer, I don't think this movie would come across nearly as
right.
intelligently funny as it does. But
Right, because
Jonah
like
is
because
special,
the subject matter, right? You have to like kind of toe the line a bit, right? Like it's a
right?
where it could easily get like offensive. But
Yeah.
I think it's cool that you have someone like Jonah Hill and then Kenya Barris who like co-wrote it with him. He created Blackish, so he understands like
Okay.
how to walk that line very well. And like and
Right.
that was the vibe I got from the trailer where it's like this could easily be like, whoa, but like it's smart. It seems like it's really
It's
intelligently
in the
done.
right hands.
Right.
Anybody else making this, I wouldn't have as much stock in it as I do. But I was pleasantly surprised by that trailer. I think it looks intelligently funny. It doesn't like the subject matter, like you just said, could really go either way in someone else's creative hands. But I'm excited for this one, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
And
No,
didn't think I
actually,
was
yeah.
excited.
Yeah, yeah, like I said, it was in my it was in my email. I was like, yeah, whatever. I'll like didn't even watch it, and I like looked down the list. I was like, oh wow, there's some good people in here. And then I was like, oh, and then this
Yeah.
person like I was like, perfect. Like this actually sounds like pretty good. So like, yeah, looking forward to that one. And I'm sure like I mean, I love Eddie Murphy. I love Eddie Murphy too. Like Eddie Murphy, like I mean, he it's interesting because like his career kind of ebbs and flows. Um,
Yeah,
when
it's
it
like a John
when it's
Travolta.
yeah, when he's on, he's like really on, and then like when he falls off, he kind of falls off. But he's actually been on a bit lately. I think I haven't really
He's
like
on a comeback
yeah,
since
yeah,
Coming to America,
uh,
I think, right?
yeah, and
Maybe
then like
before. I don't know.
uh, yeah, right before that too. And then like and like he's smart too. I mean, he got in league with like doing like some stuff with Amazon, doing stuff with Netflix. Like
Oh,
some people kind of see like the future, and I think
okay.
some of those celebrities
He's a
are.
long
They're
way
like
from his, yeah.
yeah.
He's a long way from his orbit lows for sure.
Yeah,
He was a
no.
back-to-back.
So the I don't know if like
At
you
one
know
point.
this, but like there was always and like the Academy said this is not true, but um Dreamgirls came out Christmas right before Norbit came out, and like he got like he swept almost like every supporting actor like award you could get at up to
Okay.
like up to the Oscar nominations coming out. And then like the Oscar nominations come out, he gets nominated, perfect. Eddie Murphy's gonna win his first Oscar. This is what everyone is expecting, right? The
I did
conspiracy
not know
theory
that.
is the conspiracy theory is Norbit came out right before the final voting for
Oh,
the Oscars, and the conspiracy theory is they're like, we are not giving the guy who was just in Norbit an Academy Award at all,
that's
dude.
true. That sucks.
So then all of a sudden, homeboy from Little Miss Sunshine, he wins. Arkin wins Best Supporting Actor. Eddie Murphy allegedly leaves the ceremony right after that because he was a little pissed. Um,
Oh
but
shit.
like, okay, you're only as good as how you handle a loss, right? So he shouldn't have done that. But
No, no,
I,
no.
I
You're
guess
right.
if like, I guess if like you're watching the trajectory, right? Like, I won this one, I won this. Everyone's saying I'm the favorite. Uh, I think I'm definitely going to win tonight.
Yeah.
And then they're like, but yeah, the conspiracy theory is like they just blame it on Norbit. They're like, no, man, we cannot. If you would have pushed that movie back like a couple months, you could have got away with it.
I gotta see it. What'd you say? Dreamgirls?
Dreamgirls, yeah, it's a
I gotta see
musical.
that.
Yeah, it's the movie that kind of like made Jennifer Hudson like a big star. Jennifer Hudson was like on American Idol,
Oh, okay.
got voted off like in seventh place, right? And
Okay.
then she gets this part in Dreamgirls, and she swept her entire like every major award she won for that. And that made her
Interesting.
like a even made her like a huge star. It was supposed to be like Beyonce's movie because she is the lead,
Oh, okay.
but it's
Oh,
and I'm not saying that Beyonce is bad in it because she's not, but it's also not hard for her to play like the lead of an all girl group. That was her life
right.
in real life.
Yeah, exactly.
She just has to
Nothing
channel her
new, I
inner
guess.
yeah, she has to channel her inner Destiny's Child, and she knows exactly how to play that part. Um,
Right.
Jennifer Hudson just had like a stronger performance in it. It's just like she's
Okay. Oh, that happens
yeah,
all once in a
yeah.
while.
And if you like musicals, like it's not like it kind of the music is like kind of like Motown era kind of like music, basically. Like, so it's not like typical like movie musical. If you're not into
Okay.
like musicals, uh, it actually yeah, it's pretty good. I actually really enjoy it. And Eddie Murphy, he should have won for that because he's very good in it. Like completely stills like the show. Like once he gets introduced, it's like a whole different movie. Like he's so
Okay.
good in it.
Right on.
And
Well,
it's actually a
take that one for
surprisingly
me, man.
like dramatic performance too. Like he actually like plays like I mean there are some funny elements to it, but he actually plays it pretty straight, which is like it was really interesting to see. I've never really seen him do like serious stuff a lot.
Yeah, I
Uh,
haven't seen a lot of Eddie Murphy roles, to be honest. Any I would have seen probably were from my youth. I haven't seen any of his really his back. I haven't seen any of his movies since his comeback.
Yeah.
and I've seen Norbit as a kid, but
Um,
Eddie
I,
Murphy's someone I've
I was
tried to
gonna
keep in
say,
mind.
well, at least you know about Norbit.
Yeah, that's hard.
His little
Yeah.
cinematic masterpiece. Okay. To well, we're just gonna start wrapping things up, but
Yeah.
we have of course it's the new year. New movies are coming out. 2022 is behind us. It's so weird though, because like normally I think this episode would have been us talking about the Golden Globes, but they did not. They're airing tomorrow and not on
Right.
Sunday, and not on Sunday when they usually be. But they didn't want to compete with like football. I get it. Um. So it's gonna be weird talking about that like next week. um.
Right.
But like we have
That'll
a
come.
brand new year of movies coming out. And I just kind of want to
Yeah.
see what some of your anticipated ones are. I mean,
Absolutely.
I actually have mine's already on my G Reels. So, but
Okay.
since we did agree to do like five and maybe honorable mentions, we'll just do the
Yeah.
five. And if there's any honorable mentions that you want to throw out there,
Sure. I do have a
yeah,
couple that I just couldn't not put in there. I wanted to give some love, so I did come down. That's why I haven't seen your list, or if I did, I forget. But I'd love to hear your top five most anticipated as well. Um, I'll start off with my first though, and it's not close. I'll put it this way: I'm the most excited for Chris Nolan's Oppenheimer. That's the top of my list. It has been since the first post I saw about it. Like I just love it. He's the guy. I wanted to mention this earlier when we were talking about after the Dark Knight Rises. It was Interstellar. I was 16. When did that come out? Was it a summer release? Like
it
a
was a summer release.
release?
Yeah,
I would have just turned 16 when I saw that in theaters for the first time, and that was the movie that I remember put off the light bulb in my head as the wow, this is what movies can be, this is what movies are. So it's
yeah,
really the movie I credit with like inspiring love and discovery of cinema. So like it's been
nice.
my favorite filmmaker ever since. So I'm always going to be, no matter what he's putting out any given year, that's going to be probably my top most anticipated. But behind that would be Dune Part Two. I'm a huge fan of the first one. Still have never seen David Lynch's Dunes, but I would like to sometime. But
It's really bad. Maybe maybe you
I
should
love
just
Lynch.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
he doesn't even like it.
I know. I'm not expecting good things. I get that part. I would just like to see them just for the sake of seeing them. And I love David Lynch, so there'd be things I
it'll
like.
be
And Kyle
it'll be
MacLachlan's great.
interesting to like see what you think, like having seen like this really like visually great Dune, and then like going back and watching that, and you're like, uh, might be hard,
Yeah,
but yeah, but yeah, you should see
but
it though,
I absolutely will. But
just
I'm
to
gonna
say
get a
that you did.
rewatch. Yeah, exactly. That'll probably be all I'll take away from it. But I got to get a rewatch of Denis Villeneuve's first Dune probably before this one comes out. I've been wanting to watch it again because I got a 4K copy of it, but I'm like, I don't want to watch it now and then watch it again
And then
before
watch it
part two
again.
comes out.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's such a haul, so I'll probably wait, hold off. But anyway, Dune Part Two up there, in my top five. Next, and this is no particular order after Oppenheimer, but next I've written down is Ari Aster's recently retitled "Beau is Afraid." Which, what do you think about that whole thing? It was Disappointed Boulevard for the longest time, and then
yeah.
I don't know what went into that name change, or I know that
Me either.
he has a short called Beau. I
Yeah.
know that, but interesting that they decided so late. I can't think of any other examples where a movie has changed its name that late in production. I'm sure they exist, but
Yeah,
none of
yeah.
mine
That's
know.
usually doesn't happen, but yeah. I mean,
So
you
that'll
know
be
what's
another.
interesting? What's interesting about that movie is that like, I saw you saw the poster. I'm assuming right, like that came out
Yeah,
for it, and like this is like me not being like I don't quite know what this is, but I am so intrigued by it, and I have the utmost faith in him as a director. So it's like
absolutely.
I'm all in, even if I don't completely get it yet. But yeah,
It's
it looks interesting.
on paper. I keep hearing it described. Even he'll tell you it's apparently a horror, but like a family
Yeah,
horror in the sense of like Hereditary. So I can't wait to see. Like he's a very unconventional filmmaker and horror movie
yeah,
storyteller. So can't wait to
yeah.
see what kind of horror that plays into. But and Joaquin, he's the star of my next most anticipated movie as well. Ridley Scott's Napoleon. I'm a history major from school. That's my shit. I love history.
Yeah.
Napoleon is like every person who loves history. You can't talk without it. Talking about Napoleon. And like we were talking earlier, like Ridley Scott just does historical epics like nobody else. So I'm over the moon excited for Napoleon. Probably going to be another lengthy one. All of these are probably going to be really long movies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure. Yeah, and then the last one's no exception. My fifth most anticipated, again not in order, is Marty Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. Like I don't know what
That's
the
on.
runtime's supposed to be on that, but can't wait for
Oh,
it. Anything Marty, like give them to me, man.
yeah.
Yeah, that was my
It's
favorite.
yeah. I mean, I have been looking forward to that movie as soon as they announced it.
Mhm.
um,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
yeah, and then I was like all mad when they were like, "Oh, they're delaying it," but it's because of him. It's Martin Scorsese. He's like a perfectionist and wants to like. Apparently, he's notorious for a very lengthy editing process. Like he's very
I
like
guess so.
yeah, and you know, yeah, he puts out great stuff. So I was like, whatever, take as long as you need to. to
Absolutely.
and now that
He's gonna perfect it, and I can't wait to see what the final product is. So with a few honorable mentions, you don't have to get too much into. I want to hear your list, but after the Evil Dead Rise trailer, I almost put it in my top five. I want to give it an honorable mention. It's be in my top 10 without a doubt. Like I'm excited for that movie. Only
okay,
horror I think I have on my list, other than Bo Was Afraid. But David Fincher's The Killer is high up there too. That was another that just got beat out by Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm really excited to see Michael Fassbender work with David Fincher. It will be amazing. Excited for that. Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis that he's
that's
self-produced,
interesting.
self-financing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I honorable mention that one myself. Like only because I'm just
Oh,
I
right on.
mean like yeah, I'm like just like knowing like he put up money himself and like you know
There's
and
a
it's
lot
Coppola, so
riding on
it's like
that.
you know very
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot yeah a
But
lot riding on.
I think that movie will be an interesting one in the debate of it is directing a young man's game because like Francis is up there. We know a lot of directors as the older they get, sometimes there's a correlation in the quality of their movies going down. I don't remember Francis's last movie. Do you know off the top of your head?
Dude, I don't either. Wait, hold on. That's what I was just thinking about that because I was like, what did he
I don't know why I
do?
didn't look this up before. I just wasn't even thinking about when he last made a movie, but I love Francis, so I'm really excited for this passion project of his
Yeah.
for sure.
Um,
That's an honorable mention.
yeah, I just hope, you know, like whenever someone makes a passion project, like my hope is that it's successful, right? It's like, oh,
Of course,
they put so much like work into this, like and their own money. But I guess when you're like someone like him, like it's like he's such
it
a
doesn't
like
matter at this point.
yeah, he's one of the vets, right? He's like, oh, whatever, you know, I'm if you're not gonna make this
He can
movie, I'm gonna make it. Like I'm
he
gonna
can
figure out how to
afford
get
to
it made.
lose some money on this. Like I don't think he's really caring how. I mean, obviously he wants to do well, but like I just love that he's making it even at this point in his life where he's wanted to make it for so long. Good for him for doing
Yeah.
it. And the last honorable mention I had was Michael Mann's Ferrari biopic, which I'm excited for as well.
Whoa, I kind of forgot about that.
Is that right? Yeah.
I
I
know
was
I
just scrolling
did.
through 23 releases and I was like, oh shit, I forgot that's coming out
I
next year. So
totally forgot about that.
yeah,
Makes me
I can't even
makes
tell you
me
who's casting it. Honestly, I can't even
makes me
remember who's in that.
I can't even
Is
makes
Adam
me
Driver in
re
that?
I think so.
I think so too, but I could just be mixing it up with House of Gucci. I don't know, but I'm excited for that. And The Boys season 4, that's also up there for shows.
All right, there we go. I like the
Yeah. What
list.
do you got? What are you looking forward to?
All right, so I'm gonna get the honorable mentions out of the way because
Sure.
I got crap for not adding these to like my full
Okay.
list um because they're like, oh come on, how can you not be excited for that? But I'll honorable
Yeah, it's
mention
all
to
personal opinion.
yeah, I'll honorable
Who
mention
cares?
it to like to ease some of the anger. So
Okay.
I'll, I'll honorable mention Indiana Jones. I actually really liked the trailer that they released for it because
Yeah.
I still have like the fucking stink of like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull like on me because I hated that movie and it's so weird to say like and it's so bad. I feel like every time I say something bad about Spielberg, I feel bad, but I just did not like it. I
I
was like,
agree. The cinema gods weep when that movie is mentioned. I feel
yeah,
it's just such a stain. I actually haven't seen it because I've just been told to avoid it. So
it
why
was
would I
just so
suffer through it?
it was just so like I mean, this is at the point where like Shia LaBeouf was like he hadn't gotten into a lot of trouble yet, right? So he was like he was the it thing, right? And you could tell they were like setting up what they wanted to do was like kind of set him up to possibly like replace
The
Harrison
mantle.
Ford if
Yeah.
they went younger and like all that stuff. So it felt like that. Like the whole time it just felt like one big setup movie for that. Um
Yeah.
but
It's a
what I
little
loved about
CGI heavy too, is it not?
Oh, very, very. And
They
what's
leaned into
crazy? I
that.
mean,
That's
like,
unfortunate.
yeah, I mean, you have people like Kate Blanchett in it. Like, there's so many good people in it, and
Holy
it's just
shit.
like, and it's like it was just a dumpster fire. It just wasn't good. Um, but this one,
That's a,
I thought the trailer looked really good. I loved hearing like the John Williams score in the trailer. Like, it kind of
of
brought me
course.
back to like the actual good Indiana Jones movies. Um, I did get crap when I didn't put it in like my list. I was like, it's just like looking forward to other stuff more, if that makes sense.
Right. And I'm
Um,
struggling the director. I knew this 30 seconds ago, and now he's escaped my mind. But who's making it again? Ford
oh,
versus
why?
Ferrari director, right?
Yeah, you're right. And why am I blanking on his name right now? That's
I don't know why I'm blanking too. I feel ashamed.
yeah. I'm typing it, and right now I'm gonna be like so
I,
mad when I
I
look
can't
at
think
it and
Sam
go,
Mendes out of my
James
head. I know
James
it's not
Mangold,
Sam.
James
James
Mangold.
Mangold, not Mendes. Yeah, James Mangold.
James
I have faith in him.
Mangold.
Like I love James
Yeah,
Mangold. Sorry, James. I
yeah,
didn't mean to disrespect you like that. But yeah,
yeah. So
I can see why I'd be excited for that for sure. If I had grown up more around the indie movies, I would definitely be more excited for that one. But I only just saw all the first three, and my buddy Cam sat me through them, and we binged the first three within the last couple of years, and I thoroughly enjoyed them.
yeah,
So I get why you'd be pumped for that
yeah. And I love the I love the one that people dislike. I mean, they don't dislike it, but like it's not the favorite of the three. Like I love Temple of Doom. It's like it's the
one. Okay.
second one, and it's like darker and like I love that stuff a little bit more. But that
Oh,
is
100%.
considered, but it's considered the one by most fans are like, "Man, that's not the really good one though." I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. I have my own personal
All
preference.
three of them are good. Pretty sweet.
I'm honorably mentioning this one. Uh, I saw another trailer for it right before Megan. I am, but I felt I couldn't add it to the list because like it's not like a legitimate movie. But Cocaine Bear. I'm like kind of, I like
Yeah, that's
it
a
looks
sneaky
like
one.
it looks like it knows exactly what it is, and I'm cool with that. It
I
looks
agree with you. On paper,
absolutely
I was
gross.
not sure how to feel about that, but the trailer hit all the right marks, and I think it's a what's her name, Elizabeth?
Elizabeth Banks.
Yes, that's right. I think she's honestly like got the right idea for that movie, so good for their. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yeah. And then I also uh and this could change like once I see more from it, but I did an honorable mention for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 because
That was
I
the
have a
first.
I have a sneaking suspicion that they're gonna try to make people like ugly cry
Yeah,
during this
I
movie.
know. I know where you're going with that. I know
Yeah,
history.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
trailer, it was the first Marvel property like trailer in a while that I saw that genuinely made me laugh out loud. Like that scene in the beginning of the trailer when Drax throws that
Yep.
ball and hits that little alien girl in the face,
Yep.
man. I burst out laughing. I
Yep.
think it was good. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks
And is
pretty
it
good.
James?
Huh?
James Gunn directing?
Yeah,
James
yeah,
Gunn directing?
it's
Yeah.
so yeah, it's his last one because he has to work exclusively with DC now. Uh,
Okay.
and what we don't know is like, I guess all the actors kind of shot it as if this was the last Guardians movie, but I don't know if like that means that some of them are done in like the greater Marvel universe.
Right.
And that like will they pop up in like like the Avengers, like next Avengers movies or but yeah, this
Right.
is for all intents and purposes the last Guardians movie though.
Okay.
Uh
Well, he's done great
uh
things with that series, so
yeah, I
good
mean
for him.
I knew nothing about them before that first one came out. And I am a comic book fan, and I was like, oh, I don't know anything about them, and
I
like
didn't realize how obscure they were.
yeah, and he turned something that you had no idea about, and like made them like probably some of the most likable like movies in the MCU. Like they're really well done, and
I
like
100% agree with you.
cast
They're
is
some of
fun.
my favorites. Yeah.
All right, so then just to go from like 5 to 1, I just because I love Scream, I had to put Scream at 5.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
excited. I mean, I'm just you know, I you know what I am going I am going to rewatch the one from last year again, right?
I don't want to
Just
sow
to,
any seeds in mine and keep my experience. I don't want to take any love out of it for you. I am excited for the sixth one too. The poster and the trailer look great.
yeah. Yeah,
They're
I
waiting for
just
me to send them.
but like yeah, you did remind me though. Like I did watch it like on a high. Like it was like I'm like, oh, this is so good. It's so good to see a Scream movie in
But
the
that's
theater
nice to
again.
keep that. You don't want to not to lose love for something. So I don't want to be
No, it's true.
responsible for that. That's how it goes.
But then like there are certain people I know who have watched it again and they are starting to get like nitpicky about certain things.
Yeah.
Like And I could see myself being like, yeah, I guess it doesn't make sense that Sydney would like, she's like married and has a kid or like kids, right? And like, why would she even bother? I mean, I know they're her friends, like, but
Yeah,
why would she like, but
there's things that just that's a conversation for another day, without a doubt. We
I
could
know, I
talk
know,
about
I know,
that for
I know,
sure.
yeah.
But
But
the
thank
sixth
you for
one,
that.
I agree with you.
Yeah, at 4, I have Dune Part 2 because I really liked
Nice.
the first one a lot.
Yeah, great cast and that.
I know, I remember because the movie's so long, and my buddy that I saw it with, he was like, "Wait, this is not gonna be like a complete movie." I was like, "Yeah, this is just like part one," and he was like, "What?" He was so mad. But I was like, if you're gonna take a book like that and adapt it, you can't just like try to like do one.
No,
I mean, like, yeah,
exactly.
and I'm glad that it made enough money so that he actually do part two. 'Cause that was like the big thing. Like when it opened,
Yeah.
they're like, all right, it has to break even. And that was the year that they were also releasing movies at the same time on HBO Max. So like
Yep.
there was a lot riding on it.
In hindsight, that is a huge gamble and good. That movie performed awesomely. So wow, that is crazy to think about.
and then the names they added to the second one. I mean, Florence Pugh's gonna be in it. Austin
Christopher
Butler,
Walken, Austin
Walken.
Butler,
Yeah.
like that
Uh,
movie's stacked.
we're gonna get more Zendaya, so that's good.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
she's in it a lot more. Um,
100%.
and the first one didn't disappoint me, so that's why I'm excited for that. And then third spot, I have Oppenheimer as well. What's funny is that David Fincher and Christopher Nolan like flip flop between being my favorite directors. Like I go
Oh,
back and
okay.
forth about like which and like I haven't like I was thinking about that too. Like Christopher Nolan's like one of those filmmakers where like hey, I haven't watched a bad like he hasn't made a bad movie. Like
Not at all.
he's a rare like David Fincher almost has that, but he directed Alien 3, even though the studio kind of like took that from him. It's not
Exactly.
his
He
fault.
discredits that, and I'll give
Yeah,
him
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like, I
Right.
don't even consider that
So if we
amazing.
discount Alien 3, like he's never made a bad movie ever. I think Tarantino might be in that club too, where it's like
Yep.
can't think of anything bad that they yeah. Um I but I only think Christopher Nolan can like make movies like this. Or like they make you like any other filmmaker would be like, I don't want to see that in the theater, but like he wants to make you like see this movie in the theater
Yeah.
and like everyone doesn't have that power. Like he does.
No, that's right. He's a special filmmaker.
Yeah. And then on the second spot I have Killers of the Flower Moon, so we are
Right
getting
on.
in sync on that one. I don't know, Scorsese, DiCaprio. It's hard to like how do you bet against that? Um
Yeah, exactly.
so
Nothing else right there.
number one, and I will say it just because I'm just so curious about like what it's gonna be and how it's gonna be. I threw in the Barbie movie at number one, man. That's only because I
Man, yeah.
only because
I'm excited for that too.
I'm like still intrigued about like what it is, like what it exactly are we gonna get. Um, but like I don't know. There's that Simu Liu thing like really got me when he was like they were trying to get him to read it and he was like no I don't want to, that sounds stupid, and then like his people were like no, this is like one of the best scripts I've ever written or ever
That's what people are saying, and
yeah,
you're right. It's a
and
treat.
and then
I
and then
didn't know how to think.
yeah, I'm still like I can't tell if it's like made for like us, like it's supposed to be like satire, is it made for kids? I still don't know, but like I'm so
Exactly.
intrigued by it.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't like that. If that movie wasn't flirting around with being in my high, like probably in my top 10. Like I was really thinking about that movie when I was making this list, and only because like there's just so much more I gotta like look into it maybe before I can
Right.
get really excited. It's gonna be one I'm gonna be absolutely seeing. Just even the teaser, the whole 2001 inspired teaser alone is enough of a curveball to make me rethink where I thought this movie was going to be going, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, that's
Yeah, you
my
have to pick.
and of course, these could
Great
all
list.
change, right? Once we see more trailers from certain movies, and then like
Yep.
something might get knocked down, might get knocked up, like whatever. Like this is all kind of based on like you know, at either like we were really like attracted to some of the filmmakers like previous work, and we want to see what they're like, what they're gonna do next with like their next project. Uh, there's a lot of things like we're just kind of like assuming like this is just based on like maybe seeing one trailer and nothing else. It's very early, but like it's the start of the year, so we figured we should
Yeah.
tell you what we're looking forward to.
On that note, actually, tomorrow, as of the day we're filming this, tomorrow, that Tuesday, we'll get the first trailer for Beau Was Afraid. So some of these we haven't even seen footage of yet. But I'm really excited for that one.
That's true, and that means that
Yeah, that one out.
we'll be talking about that on next Monday.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I'm gonna say this now because I know this is a long episode, but this is your first one, like a first official one.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of like kind of like explaining everyone like why you're gonna be on and like why we kind of made the decision to do it. I've also learned from like other people that listen, they don't care when the episodes run long, so thank you. I
Oh, that's
appreciate
good.
that. But yeah, how do you feel like in your first official one?
Oh, dude, this is
Like
awesome. Like, this is what I love to do on a daily basis. Like, I don't always get the opportunity to chat film and for this long and just in depth with. I got a couple buddies that I'm able to do that with. So to be able to do this and record it and to put it out there for other people to listen to, I am stoked about, and I'm very, very happy to be able to do it. So I thought this was a great experience. I could probably go on for another couple hours until we bored the listeners to death, but no, I do thank them for staying with us because yeah, we can do a lot of talking, man. That's for sure. But no, I feel
yep.
good. I feel
Yeah.
good.
Well, I'm glad to have you. It's gonna be a really I think fun just year because there's a lot of like of course we got like Oscars coming up and then like all these like big
Mm,
like releases that are coming out. We just talked about like some of our 2023 movies. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a really fun, good time. And I know like
agreed.
everyone can't see this right now, but he also has like a Halloween like poster or picture in on his wall, and Hollow
I
and
got some out
Jaws.
there too.
Nice, nice. Halloween is like my favorite scary movie, so like
I
Jackson
see
earns
that
like
score poster behind you.
yeah, Jackson earns even more points just for just having that on his wall.
One
Uh,
of my favorites. Carpenter's one of my favorite filmmakers, so you have to have that up
yeah,
there.
of course. But yeah. Next week we'll probably be talking about the results of the Golden Globes.
Right?
Would have been today, but they didn't air it on Sunday. They're doing it tomorrow. Um, and I'm sure there'll be some interesting picks, winners and losers from that. That we'll be able to talk about a bit. And I haven't discussed this with you yet, but I'm going to discuss it with you now. Um,
Okay.
Cloverfield has its 15th anniversary next week, I think. Um,
Wow. Holy.
and I thought that might be a fun one to kind of revisit. Maybe kind of
Absolutely.
yeah. I can't believe it's that old. Makes me feel
So
old.
the copy of that movie that I have is actually one from Blockbuster that I never returned before they went out of business. So my copy is a Blockbuster copy of that movie. So I love that movie. I saw it many times when it came out. When did it come out? 2007, I think. So I
Yeah,
would have been 9 if that's the case. So, but I remember getting the copy. Obviously, I had that DVD laying around. I never brought it back, and I remember seeing it many times as a kid. So I would be more than happy to dive back into that one.
that's a
That
that's
movie's
a
great.
that's a good one to not return if you're going to keep a movie from Blockbuster.
Yeah.
At least it's a good one. But yeah, that'll be a fun one to revisit, especially just talking about how they marketed it and everything. It was like a really, really smart marketing campaign when that movie came out. Uh, but yeah, we have like we do a lot of anniversary stuff on the show, and I mean I sent you that like page that has like all the movie anniversaries coming up.
Yes,
Uh,
which is super helpful.
yeah, so like yeah, there'll be a
Yeah, let's
lot
do
more.
it.
There'll be a lot more of that and a lot more industry news, and like Jackson's gonna be here week after week to break all this stuff down with me. So
Looking forward to the
yeah,
ride.
looking forward to it. Yeah, so like of course you can listen to us across all of our various podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Good Pods, wherever you want to listen to us, you can listen. I believe starting with this episode, the actual video episodes are gonna go up on the Back of the Blockbuster does have a YouTube page that we're gonna start updating more now. And then I'll also
Right
put it
on.
on like the G Reels YouTube page just so we can kind of possibly build more traction that way. So you'll be able to see our like beautiful shiny faces if you choose to. Uh, uh, and then also we're gonna start doing some fun like taking clips and stuff and throwing them on TikTok and Instagram because like that's where all the kids go to find stuff. So I have to keep up with the times. Uh,
Yes, we
so
do.
there's gonna be like a lot of places you can find and discover us. And thank you for making the first episode of 2023 really good. And I am looking forward to even more with you down the line. It's gonna be a really good time, man. And I'm really excited.
It was a pleasure talking to you, my friend. I look forward to next week. And thank you to all the listeners for tuning in to us again. Looking forward to 2023, guys.
Yep, it's gonna be good. Peace out, guys.